work of the pro-life movement continues to save mothers and babies and to bring people to the pro-life message every day. Because together we stand for life and together we always will. See you July 2nd to 5th for the Life Fest 2020. Be part of it. Stand for life. Check out the All Ireland Rally for Life Facebook and your e-zines for more information and updates.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share and tweet the Rally for Life on all your social media platforms. #United for Life, #Rally for Life. And please donate now to support the rally. Stay tuned for more. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share and tweet the Rally for Life on all your social media platforms. #United for Life, #Rally for Life. And please donate now to support the rally. Stay tuned for more.
For 35 years, Ireland's 8th Amendment protected both mother and child from abortion. Hundreds of thousands of lives were saved, and Irish maternal health care was also amongst the best in the world. Ireland was described by abortion campaigners as the jewel in the crown of the pro-life movement. But that became one of the reasons why international funding poured into a campaign to repeal the 8th Amendment. On May 25, 2018, that legal protection for preborn babies was stripped away after a deeply divisive campaign, which saw the media relentlessly spin the narrative that the removal of the 8th Amendment was necessary to protect women's lives. While the international news stories focused on the result of the referendum, until now, the history of Ireland's pro-life protections and the people, the movement, the events and campaigns that kept abortion at bay has never been written. This is the untold story of Ireland's pro-life movement, of the ordinary men and women who did extraordinary work to ensure Ireland's unborn babies were protected for decades after most of the Western world had fallen to the abortion industry. It's the story of how the 8th was won, how the 8th was lost, and how hundreds of thousands of lives were saved in between. Jonathan Van Maren tells how Ireland's constitutional ban on abortion came about, how thousands of unlikely heroes fought for years to save the lives of children whom they may never even meet, persevering in the face of a hostile culture, a contemptuous media, and powerful political opposition. Too often, the stories of the pro-life movement are told by others. They are told by a pro-abortion media who act more like attack dogs than journalists. This is the real story of the thousands of people who put boots on the ground to fight tooth and nail for the life of every preborn baby. Of the men and women who fought with their ancestors at their backs and their children in their hearts, fired by the rock-solid conviction that Ireland's babies were worth fighting for. It is the story of how they succeeded in that fight for decades, and how the exploitation of a woman's tragic death was used as a battering ram to breach those defences. It's the story of resilience and defiance that is even now raising up the movement once again. It's time for this story to be told. Pre-order your copy of Patriots, The Untold Story of Ireland's Pro-Life Movement today.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share and tweet the Rally for Life on all your social media platforms. #United for Life, #Rally for Life. And please donate now to support the rally. Stay tuned for more. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share and tweet the Rally for Life on all your social media platforms. #United for Life, #Rally for Life. And please donate now to support the rally. Stay tuned for more. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share and tweet the Rally for Life on all your social media platforms. #United for Life, #Rally for Life. And please donate now to support the rally. Stay tuned for more. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share and tweet the Rally for Life on all your social media platforms. #United for Life, #Rally for Life. And please donate now to support the rally. Stay tuned for more. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share and tweet the Rally for Life on all your social media platforms. Hashtag United for Life, hashtag Rally for Life. And please donate now to support the rally. Stay tuned for more. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share and tweet the Rally for Life on all your social media platforms. Hashtag United for Life, hashtag Rally for Life. And please donate now to support the rally. Stay tuned for more.
Hello everybody and welcome to Ireland's first online rally for life. You'll be used to marching through the streets of Dublin at this time of year, and next year we'll be back on those streets. But this year we're here to give you an action-packed day of some of the best pro-life speakers from around the world. My own name is Tim Jackson.
And I'm Niamh Ivrian, and a huge welcome to everybody watching. We're so excited and delighted to have you here for Rally for Life 2020. And we've got an amazing lineup of speakers, and we want you to take part in the rally today by hashtagging Rally for Life, hashtagging United for Life, and liking and sharing everything that comes up into your feed. Some great news from this morning already. We had some 32 local pro-life vigils happening around the country, all socially distanced of course, and all those people are now back home ready to watch the Rally for Life online for 2020. It's going to be such an amazing day. So we're going to go straight to one of our first speakers for this afternoon from Culture of Life Africa. Now we're delighted to have Obianuju Akocha from Culture of Life Africa join us on the Rally for Life today. Hi Uju.
Hi Niamh, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be part of the rally this year. This is amazing. Thank you so much.
Well, it's amazing to have you. And a lot of people will know you, Uju, after you became a viral sensation for the powerful speech you made at the United Nations, where you talked about the abortion lobby enforcing its own ideology on the women of Africa. Can you tell us some more about that?
Yeah, so that was what a lot of people have now called ideological neocolonialism. And it's this phenomenon whereby Western countries that are wealthier, Western entities, sometimes Western private foundations, in their relationship with African countries, they are giving humanitarian aid, which is meant to be good and altruistic. But then while they are within this relationship, donor-recipient relationship, they're pushing their own ideas and their own ideologies towards these poorer countries, towards these developing countries. And that's what we've seen a lot of across the African continent, where a country comes and they say they're giving money or funding for healthcare, and then they're still then telling us to legalize abortion and things like that. So that's ideological neocolonialism. And I've talked about it in many places, including the UN, as you alluded to.
So I think that's what you described, Uju, as the strings that are attached to the aid or to the help that Africa gets from the West and from European countries. And you've said before that what African women actually want is better maternal health care instead of abortion.
Yeah, so imagine, Niamh, that, maternal health care has become a real problem for us in many African countries. It's a weak point within African healthcare systems. Our maternal death rate is so high. It's the highest in the world. You find a lot of the African countries having this problem that just will not go away. So it's been a weak spot and a vulnerability for African countries. And because Western donors know that, when they approach us and they are trying to advise us on maternal health care and even donate money and things in order to help alleviate the problem, it's unfortunate to find within that particular kind of relationship Western countries that should know better telling us that if we legalize abortion or if we made abortion easily accessible, that our maternal health care will be better. That's absolutely a horrible lie. But we found Western countries using this as a proper strategy now because it's a weak point for African countries. So they're using it especially in countries where they are so culturally opposed to abortion. They are trying to force abortion in as a good in healthcare. But what we want is maternal healthcare. We want safe delivery, not the so-called safe abortion.
Yeah, and you've talked about how there are racist undertones. You feel that sometimes racist undertones in how aid is offered to African countries?
Well, by all means, if you look at the way they roll out their plans, if you see the countries that they are targeting is mostly the sub-Saharan African countries. And the sub-Saharan African countries, for those who don't know, are the 45 or 46 countries that are below the Northern African region. So the Black Africans, in other words, they are targeting these countries. They are pushing their ideas whenever they're picking on programs. When they offer other people education, for example, they offer us the so-called sexual sexual and reproductive health and rights in countries where people can't even find clean drinking water, or food for their families or education for their children. So yes, I believe that this is a kind of racism in a way. I call it philanthropic racism, where they are targeting particularly Black African countries for the worst of the projects, for the most ideological of the projects, and they are militant about it because they're holding our African leaders almost at ransom. If only those leaders who are cooperating with them are getting the money, and in that cooperation you have a lot of ideological maneuvers, and it's coming from Western players.
I think you can see very often in some of the unspoken ideology that seems to be saying that instead of making better lives for Africans, we need fewer Africans. And I think that's something that should concern people, the kind of ideology that's driving that. A lot of our viewers here today are going to be surprised to learn that Irish aid, money from Irish taxpayers, is now funding this kind of ideological colonisation. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so it's quite unfortunate actually, because initially, or for many, many years, a lot of African countries have respected Ireland in the sense that Ireland is one of the Western countries that decided they were not going to fund abortions in African countries. You had a policy in your books, in your foreign policy, to never fund abortion in developing countries. But once abortion was legalized in Ireland, within 60 days, the Irish government launched a policy paper that had then officially changed the Irish position and lifted the ban, or they were going to lift this ban to not fund abortions overseas. Obviously, Ireland then wanted to step in and become a major key player in bringing abortion to developing countries, and that's one of the most unfortunate things. So Ireland now is open to funding abortions overseas, and they are doing it through their various funding streams. But also, in addition to that, something quite disturbing happened during a UN event that was held in Kenya in November of 2009, where Ireland had their own delegations at this International Conference on Population and Development, the ICPD. And one of the key people who were sent by Ireland to this event was Senator Noon, who I think now is no longer a senator, but at the time, she had a very critical position in Ireland, being a senator, but also being part of the delegation that was sent to Nairobi. And while she was at this event, it was unbelievable to hear her giving a speech at this major event about how Ireland had a success story. And what she was describing as a success story was how the Irish brought an end through referendum to the 8th Amendment. Mind you, she's sitting in an African country. Mind you, most of the African countries do not have legal abortion, and they don't want legal abortion. But Senator Noon was talking about legalizing abortion as a success story, trying to advise African countries. And I find this as the height of Western arrogance. This is only a Western person can come to an African country and talk about something which a lot of Africans are diametrically opposed to, as if it's a success story. So we've had the Irish not only funding abortion, but also really pushing the ideology, using their own platforms. And I want to appeal to the Irish people now, people who are paying taxes, people who are sponsoring Irish Aid, which is your agency that deals with aid and funding in developing countries, to please ensure that Ireland does not become an exporter of abortion, because some of the Western countries, we've seen that coming from some of the Western countries, that Ireland doesn't join the league of Western neocolonialists who are coming to Africa to push for a particular ideology which the Africans are opposed to. Ireland, in fact, is a country that many African countries identify with, because the Irish have had an unbelievable history of so much pain and oppression. So how is it now that Ireland wants to be the oppressor in pushing something like a horrible ideology like abortion on African countries? So it's an appeal, and Africans don't want to see the Irish coming to push something as horrible as the killing of unborn babies in our countries.
That's such an important point, and I think people who are listening today, get onto your politicians, tell them that African women do not want Western ideology bringing abortion and forcing it on African countries. Just finally, Uju, Right now, right across the world, we're seeing a big move to tear down statues, especially of people who are meant to have had a racist or an imperialist past. And of course, two of the founders of the biggest abortion providers in the world, Margaret Sanger in relation to Planned Parenthood and Mary Stopes in relation to the Mary Stopes Foundation, were horrible racists. Should we start with tearing down their monuments and the statues to them?
Actually, these two women, from the early 20th century are key people. Not only were they racists, they were also eugenicists. And of course, as anybody who studies the eugenics movement of the early 20th century would see that they were against people with, disabilities, but also just against Black people. So, Mary Stopes and Margaret Sanger, two key women who pushed this idea and ideology, they combine this very toxic, these two toxic things, which are racism and eugenics, into a particular ideology that they infused into these two massive organizations that they left to the world. These are two poisonous legacies, and I call them poisonous because they really are. This is Planned Parenthood and Mary Stopes International. And we find them in Western countries. We see everything that they are doing now. They have become major organizations in whatever countries that they exist in. But we also have seen them in Africa. I have worked in many African countries, and there are many countries where you see International Planned Parenthood Federation and their agencies, and we've seen many African countries where you have Mary Stopes International functioning. Mind you, organizations that have had racist roots, these are racist legacies, eugenic legacies. Of course, this should be the first organizations and legacies we should uproot and completely delete, if possible, because they have done horrible work for in their history, but they continue also to do it. It's not as if they have had any kind of major change. These are organizations that are pushing their ideas. They are going to Black and ethnic minority neighborhoods. They are aborting Black babies in various countries at a much higher rate. And mind you, I'm against abortion, whether it's a Black baby or white baby, it doesn't even matter to me, but you still find, if you study the data, that they are attacking minority groups more than any other groups. When you come to African countries as well, we find that it is Mary Stopes International, the organization, and International Planned Parenthood Federation are two major voices and funders of all the movements in the different African countries that are trying to legalize abortion in Black African countries. So obviously these organizations have very deep-rooted problems. They do have very poisonous past and toxic past in the toxic ideologies of their founders. And I think now that we are visiting the past, we should completely uproot this particular, these two ideologies and legacies that are infused in these two organizations left behind by two horrible racists in history, Mary Stopes and Margaret Sanger.
I couldn't agree with you more. Uju, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
So folks, the theme for this year's Rally for Life is #UnitedForLife, and we're asking you to share the link now with as many people as possible so that we can have as many participating as possible. There are people around the world who usually hold rallies at this time of year in their own country, but because of COVID-19 they also have had to change their plans, delay them somewhat, but they've also sent us special messages from their countries in support of what we're doing.
Hi, Rally for Life Ireland. I'm Matt.
I'm Josie.
I'm Debbie.
And we are with Campaign Life Coalition, the organizers of the National March for Life in Canada.
De la Coordinadora por Todas las Vidas de Montevideo, Uruguay, que agrupa una serie de asociaciones pro vida, nos unimos con mucho fervor al Rally por la Vida de Irlanda.
Congratulations for your next Rally for Life online. We, here from Colombia, stand for life with you guys because we defend women, we defend unborn, and we defend lives.
Hello Ireland and everyone who's watching today. My name is Ben.
I'm Sarah.
And I'm Isabel.
And we are
March for Life UK.
Like you, we will never stop speaking up until the life of every human at every stage is loved and protected, and that protection is enshrined by law.
Hi, I'm Virginia Polanunziante, President of the Italian March for Life. Last month we had our virtual march, Connected for Life, and more than 40,000 Italian marchers joined us in this virtual rally.
Today we stand for life with our Irish friends.
Hello Ireland! We are the Dutch pro-life organization Cry for Life. Thank you for being a voice for the Irish unborn. We wish you a wonderful day, and we want you to know that we stand with Irish pro-lifers.
I am the leader of Marcha por la Vida Argentina, Alejandro Geyer. We are standing strong with you, all the way from Argentina.
Greetings, Rally for Life in Dublin. Coming to you all the way from Chicago, Illinois, in the United States. I'm Dawn Fitzpatrick, President of the March for Life Chicago. We support all of our Irish pro-lifers.
I want to really cheer up Irish people for this rally, coming rally the 4th of July.
Greetings from Chile to Ireland on this Rally for Life.
We're very happy to join you because this is a cause that needs the support from all countries, from everyone. The dignity of life is so precious that we all have to fight for it.
We wanted to do this video to wish you the best of luck on your Rally for Life online this 4th of July, and also to continue to support you on your quest in the defense of the life of the most innocents.
If we don't fight for pregnant women and their children, who will fight? Nobody, so keep on fighting.
We wish you nothing but the best. Keep up the good fight. Speak the truth, unapologetic.
Don't be afraid. Children need all of you, Irish. Choice life. Say no to the culture of death, please. Saludos desde la Argentina a todos los irlandeses. And now, cheers for you.
So we really hope that you have a fantastic day today. And we have one last thing to say to you. Life is from conception.
No exception!
So the March for Life in the US is one of the largest pro-life marches in the world, and it has inspired pro-lifers everywhere from Poland to Peru to come out in great numbers to stand for life and be united for life. I'm delighted today to have Jeannie Monaghan-Mancini, the president of March for Life USA, join us. Jeannie, you're very welcome.
Oh, well, thanks so much for having me. What an honor to be celebrating with you. Such an interesting moment in our country.
It is indeed. Can you talk to us about the March for Life and why it's so important and how it empowers and inspires people?
Absolutely. So the March for Life in Washington, D.C. was the first of all of the marches around the world. It began in 1974. So this year we'll march for the 48th March for Life. It's hard to believe. And, you know, when it began, the other side thought that we would become desensitized to abortion, essentially. And never did they imagine that this would go on so long in the United States, nor did they imagine that this would become literally the world's largest human rights demonstration, peaceful human rights demonstration. And so it is critical that we march. And sometimes I'm asked by people, you know, why is it important to march? Because isn't it more important, you know, just to pray about this or just to help pregnancy care centers, et cetera? That's really, you know, where the rubber hits the road, so to speak. And yet, I would offer we absolutely have to march every single year because it draws a line in the sand on this human rights issue. And not only that, but You know, the march is covered by a lot of media, and you never know who's watching, whose heart can change because of one of these things. Maybe someone who's been impacted by a choice that they've made in their past, and they hear the voice of love and the voice of mercy, you know, through this. Also, I would say too that we've seen things change in the United States from when our terrible Supreme Court decision Roe v. Wade came down, legalizing abortion in all of our states. And today, thankfully, our abortion rate is the very lowest that it's ever been in this country. That's why we march, to get it lower and lower, and one day unthinkable. And whereas in the late 1980s, there were maybe 500 pregnancy care centers around our country and about 2,000 abortion clinics, now that number is reversed. And perhaps most importantly, we know we're changing hearts and minds, because when you gauge public opinion on this, and particularly young demographics, they are more and more pro-life. In fact, the youngest demographic in our longitudinal general social survey here in the US, it's a government-wide social science test, essentially, that compiles data. It shows that young people, that cohort, are the single most pro-life group that there is out there. And they're also the group that's changed the most over the last 45 years or so. So we know that we're doing a good job, so to speak, and yet, we certainly have our work cut out for us with almost 1 million abortions in our country every single year.
Yes, with some very encouraging and positive statistics from you there. Incredible news that the number of crisis pregnancy care centres is now vastly outnumbering the number of abortion clinics. That's incredible news. And I know that when you look at the photos from the March for Life in the US, it's full of young people, it's full of energy and colour. And we see the same thing here in Ireland, young people coming to the fore. And our theme this year is to be united for life. And I think that's a really important factor in our marches and our rallies, that we come together to be inspired, to be motivated, and then I think to go home very often with what we've learned from the rally, from a speaker or from an information stand or from a conference or an event, to go back to our own areas, to join local pro-life groups, perhaps to join political parties, to become part of crisis pregnancy counselling, and to keep rebuilding the culture.
Couldn't agree more. If people come to the March for Life and have a really excellent, one day there, and they're very motivated, but they don't go home and make a difference in their local communities, I would say we haven't really done our job very well at the March for Life. So the truth of the matter is, we will build a culture of life worldwide if everybody responds to the call in their heart. And I am 100% convinced that every single one of us is called to build a culture of life. And that may be in different ways. Maybe it's writing an opinion piece into your local newspaper. Maybe it's running for school office or some other political office. Maybe it's praying outside of abortion clinics. Maybe it's becoming a pro-life attorney. I don't know. But if you look deep in your heart, everyone that's watching this knows that they have something to give, and that, sacrifice begets fruit. A few years ago, our theme for the March for Life was love saves lives. And I believe, Neve, to the extent that we give, sacrificially and respond to those calls in our heart, we will be successful in building a culture of life. But it's going to take all of us together, as you say, united.
Yeah, and I think the marches are a huge witness to that. They're a huge witness for life, that we stand for life. Whatever comes our way, we will continue to stand for life and to be a voice for mother and for baby. You have an election coming up, Jeannie, in November 2020. I know you've had some really good pro-life gains in recent years, but you've just had a loss in the Supreme Court. Can you tell us how that might impact on the election?
Yeah, so just this week, we've gotten devastating news, really, from the Supreme Court, and we were so hopeful with our makeup of justices now. And so sadly, abortion clinics have been given a pass in terms of health regulation. So if somebody in the US is going to get a tooth extracted or a colonoscopy or some sort of LASIK surgery, those clinics will have much higher health regulations than an abortion center here in the United States. So it's horrific that happened. But I will say that Supreme Court bad decisions motivate voters because our voters know, and even in the last election in 2016, something like 6 out of 10 Trump supporters were voting just because of the Supreme Court. And 1 out of 5 voters, regardless of who they voted for, voted primarily because of the Supreme Court. So it's the single biggest influential factor in elections in the United States. And, maybe the Supreme Court thinks it was a good decision that came down yesterday, but I think voters will let them know how they feel in November.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much to the March for Life US for being, I think, a huge inspiration to other countries. Thank you for being a witness always for life. It was absolutely great to talk to you today. Thank you so much, Jeannie.
Oh, thank you, Neve. It's just such an honor to be with you. I just love Ireland so much, and I pray that you have a beautiful March.
Now everyone, what you may not know is that there were over 32 rallies around the country earlier today, at which people responded to the news that there were 6,666 children aborted in this country in 2019. It's very sad news, but it's also very encouraging to know that people are responding to the barbarity of what's happening in our own land. So now we're going to show you a few clips from around the country.
Wasn't it just brilliant to see that? All of the pro-life people around the country taking part in those local pro-life rallies. Really encouraging and inspiring to see people continuing to stand for life. A huge welcome to everybody who's joining us online, whether that's on Vimeo, on the All Ireland Rally for Life website page, or on Facebook. You're all so welcome, and especially a big welcome to everyone who's watching us from abroad. Getting a big response from people who are really pleased to see the Love United for Life messages coming in from other pro-life groups internationally. Laura said that it was fantastic to see all those wonderful people around the world standing with us for life today. Couldn't agree with you more, Laura. And Donica says that life is precious and well done to everybody. So get your comments posted to the Facebook page. We'll try to get as many as we can read out. Don't forget to use hashtag Rally for Life, United for Life, and you're liking and sharing. And we're asking people too to consider making a donation today on the Rally for Life website page to help us pay for the cost of hosting this rally and to bring the amazing speakers and the inspiring messages to an even bigger audience afterwards. And we're going to some gorgeous music now from the Lost Coins.
Hi, we're the Lost Coins, and we hope you're enjoying the Rally for Life this year. We're sorry we can't be with you there in person, but we're going to add to the online rally through a little bit of music. And the first song we're going to do is a Bob Marley song. It's a little bit of reggae, but we're mixing some Irish music in there too. It's Redemption Song, so I hope you like it.
Old pirates, yes they rob I, sold I to the merchant ships. Minutes after they took I from the bottomless pits, but my hand was made strong by the hand of the Almighty. We forward this generation triumphantly. Won't you help me sing these songs of freedom? 'Cause all I've ever had, redemption songs, these songs of freedom. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Have no fear for atomic energy, 'cause none of them can stop the time. How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Some say it's just a part of it. We've got to fulfill the book. Won't you help me sing these songs of freedom? It's all I ever have. Redemption songs, these songs of freedom.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share and tweet the Rally for Life on all your social media platforms. #UnitedForLife, #Rally4Life. And please donate now to support the rally. Stay tuned for more.
So everyone, we're delighted now to be joined by one man who has worked night and day for the pro-life cause and for so many other causes as a TD in Meath, and he's also the Ainto leader. He'll be no stranger to you. His name is Peter Tobin. So Peter, thanks very much for being here with us today. Can we get your reaction to the abortion figures that came out recently in Ireland, because I know they shocked a lot of people?
Yeah, this week is a dark week for human rights campaigners such as myself. We know that 6,666 lives were ended by the state just in the last year. And no matter what way you look at the figures, it's a radical increase than the year previous.
And among those 6,666 babies that died this year in Ireland, there were some really tragic stories that came to light. Many tragic stories didn't, but you helped to bring some of them to light, at least one in the Dáil.
Just in March, 3 months after the legislation was passed, a couple went to the National Maternity Hospital to find out was their child okay in a scan, and the scan turned out perfectly. But they were advised to take an extra test, which cost money to them. But that test was to see, was there anything else potentially wrong with the child, in the hospital's words. They carried out that test, and the first results of that test came back, and it said that the child had what they called a fatal fetal abnormality, what we would call a life-limiting condition. And the hospital, I understand, and the allegation is that the hospital actually suggested at first that the family should proceed to have an abortion. And the family weren't interested in this option at the start. As time went on, they took the advice of the hospital, I understand, and as a result, they had the abortion. But then the second element of that test came through, which showed that the child had no abnormality whatsoever. So the family was heartbroken with regards what happened to their child. So the family then went to the government to see could they get justice with regards to this particular case. Justice wasn't forthcoming. Then they had to get a solicitor. The solicitor sent a letter to the Minister for the Health and to the hospital. And just at that point, the hospital decided to report the abortion. So people might know that the law states that an abortion has to be reported within 28 days. The hospital didn't do this. They only reported it when a solicitor's letter arrived at the hospital. And secondly, it emerged from the notes of the mother that only one obstetrician actually examined the mother. And of course, we know that the legislation states 2 obstetricians have to examine the mother in that case. So the family have been in battling with the state and Minister Harris ever since, and they promised a complete independent investigation. And as of yet, 15 months after the abortion took place, the government has refused and the hospital has refused to provide a fully independent investigation. Indeed, the hospital wants to be their own judge and jury in this situation.
Peter, we wish you the best, and thanks very much for coming on today.
Thank you.
Now, we're delighted to also be joined by 2 other TDs who were really at the forefront of the abortion referendum, in which they campaigned so vigorously to try to protect women and children from an abortion industry that unfortunately has killed a lot of Irish children. Their names are independent TDs Carol Nolan and Matty McGrath. Carol, first of all, to yourself, can we get your response to the figures that came out this week?
Yeah, well, the figures are absolutely barbaric. 6,666 innocent, vulnerable children, the most vulnerable in our society. And what we do recall is many of the leaders of political parties standing up and saying that once we had abortion in this country, that figures would be lower. And that's not the case. Unfortunately, we see this huge number today before us, and it just shows really how, the political leaders, some politicians and the media manage to weave a web of deceit And they really did fool people. They fooled the public into believing that if abortion came into this country and we lost our culture that we were so fond of, the culture of life that we held for so long, that it wouldn't be like it is now, it wouldn't be extreme, but it actually is. And it's so sad to see those figures today. It's just, you know, I find as a Republican who cherishes the values of the 1916 proclamation, that it's just a completely different country. It's we've become a different nation. It's just so sad to see that our children are not being cherished equally, that children, the most vulnerable, are not being protected because, you know, unfortunately, we had a situation where the referendum was won on deceit. And that's what happened. And I think it's important as politicians that we bring out the truth and bring out the facts. And unfortunately, we're seeing these horrible facts today. The figures speak for themselves.
And Matty, we've also seen in the programme for government how our new government plan to crack down on pro-life protesters. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
It's truly shocking, and I don't believe that was actually shown to the party membership when they voted for the deal, where they intend to have legislation to ban protests, peaceful protests of people who are trying to give counsel and advice to distraught mothers, expectant mothers, and they're going to punish and ban those protests or those engagements. It's truly shocking. The figures that Carol quoted, 6,666, just demonic. And now that's not enough. They want to ensure that it's increased, more of a push, because it's an industry. Safe, legal and rare, how are you? I mean, it's shocking, and that's there. And also, you know, they want to bring in legislation in the first 12 months, also in the programme for government, regarding hate speech. So if we're going to try and protest or have a contrarian view, we could be all, you know, guilty of this so-called hate speech, which will be brought up by or put together by some liberal cabal, which they always do, maybe another citizens' assembly to decide the wording. It's truly shocking. And it's time that the people of Ireland woke up. And this programme for government is just shameful, the way that those items are in it, and other aspects of it as well. So, I mean, they showed one part of it through the party membership to get it over the line. And then, I'm speaking about Fianna Fáil especially, who had values and was a party with values until Micheál Martin took over and sold out. Remember, 90% plus of the delegates at the Fianna Fáil Ardèche voted against abortion. And he truth in their face and has got away with it. And now he's brought these brought it into the programme for government, the exclusion zones, and it's going to happen. So he keeps going. So the membership of the party need to stand up, but they haven't, and they have got the results of it.
And Carol, have politicians who push through this abortion legislation largely been left off the hook, given the figures we've seen and given the way they claimed that it would be reduced in number?
Absolutely. I mean, they told us that story at the beginning, but then, you know, we've heard instances where the politicians became like sales reps for the abortion industry. Any excuse to push it, to encourage it, to normalise it, but give no positive solutions to women in crisis in order to keep their babies or maybe go through the adoption channel. Those options were never ever mentioned. So it was only one-way traffic. And to me, I suppose, sitting and with the opposite views, it did appear, and I did say it to Minister Harris at the time, that you're really trying to encourage this, you know, and that would certainly be my own view, that that's exactly what they're trying to do, normalise it, take what was dear from us in terms of our culture and deceive. And I really think they have successfully deceived the Irish people.
And Matty, I think for some people in the middle ground that they're shocked whenever they learn the doctor who is handing out this abortion bill is paid €450, not of a single individual's money, but of the taxpayers' money. So is there any appetite there among politicians to try and overturn that aspect of it even?
Well, unfortunately there's only a handful of us there that will question it, that will raise it. And when you see the sad deaths now, one death is one too many from the COVID, but we see the figures being manipulated there and the whole money around that and the talk and concern around it, and rightly so. 1,700 deaths minus 600 I think yesterday, and we have 6,666 people literally murdered and not a word about it. where is our moral compass gone in this country? And the spin doctors for each of the political parties seem to get away with it. So we need a rude awakening, really, yeah. And the same system try to say this is healthcare, and they try to lock us all up and lock us all in, and lock us all down regarding COVID. So people, I think, are waking up, but slowly. But unfortunately, it's too late for those 6,666 human beings and their families and the horrific consequences afterwards. So we need to be awakened, and I salute Life Institute and Family in Life and all the groups out there that have maintained, and Vicky Wall and the work she does, and many more like her, that are there to court face. But we must resist the idea of the exclusion zones. We must resist the idea of hate crime, because we'll be the people they'll be coming for. And this new liberal society, you know, we're leaders now in it. We'll be the only country in Europe, I understand, that will have legislation around hate crime, so-called hate crime.
And obviously your own voters don't hate you too much. Both of you were re-elected. It was fantastic for you and all the other people who voted no in the Dáil as well.
Well, look, I stood up and I was prepared to win or lose my seat. I let the electorate decide that, and I'm very grateful to the people of Laois Offaly. It's an honour to be re-elected, and even a greater honour to be re-elected as an independent and working with like-minded rural independent TDs. And certainly I'll do my very best. But I know, coming back to that point about the taxpayer and this being foisted on the taxpayers to pay for abortion, it just shows that there's absolutely no respect for other views or for the freedom of conscience anymore in this state, and that's particularly concerning, you know, where we could have something foisted upon us and be completely of an opposite view. And I just think, you know, the way this liberal society is becoming, it's quite dangerous, and people aren't calling it out for what it is. And certainly I look forward to working with Matty in the future, and certainly making sure things are called out on the floor of the Dáil, and making sure that our side of the argument is represented, and that pro-life people who genuinely have concerns, and rightly so, with this whole agenda, that they're represented as well as we can represent them, and just standing up for decency and standing up for life. That's what we will continue to do.
Well, Matty and Carol, thanks very much for all you've done so far and all you're doing into the future. We're now going to hear from a lady who herself is helping so many people in crisis throughout the whole country.
Welcome back. Now, we hear a lot, I think, from we hear a lot of personal stories in the abortion debate, and we heard a lot of personal stories being used in the referendum to push for abortion. I think many people will agree that we didn't hear enough stories from the most brave and the most courageous families of all, families that are involved in organisations like Every Life Counts. And these are families who are told that their babies are very sick and may not live for long after birth. And they find the courage and the resilience to go on and to ensure that their babies are wrapped in care and love, however short their life is. And we're so pleased to have with us today Vicky Wall, who's an amazing woman, much admired and much loved by people around the country for the work she does for these beautiful families and these very courageous families. Vicky, great to have you.
Thanks, Niamh. Great to be here.
Great to have you at the Rally for Life online. Now, Vicky, can you tell us how you got involved in Every Life Counts? Can you share a little of your personal story with us?
So in 2014, I found out I was pregnant, and it turned out that she was very, very sick. And the doctor just said to me when we found that out that she was incompatible with life and that I could pop to England.
Meaning to go and have an abortion.
Yeah, and that was it. We were just sent on our way on the train home with nothing else, no information, no nothing, but yet told not to Google. So I didn't Google, and I couldn't, get any information anywhere, and then I found Every Life Counts.
And you had Lawton. Tell us a little bit about Lawton.
Lawton was beautiful. She came early. She died before she was born. But she came at 33 weeks, and we got to spend time with her and make memories. And I always say it was always on her terms, that she would do what she was going to do, and we weren't going to intervene with that. And it was very precious. We spent time together as a family, and she really is still, even she was born 6 years ago, a huge part of our family.
Yeah, I've seen the beautiful photographs of her. She was such a little precious baby, absolutely gorgeous. And I've seen the beautiful little engraving you have on her grave, and it says, if our love could have saved you, you would have lived forever. Oh, absolutely gorgeous. I think to see all that love that you poured into her short life. And then, Vicky, I think it made you, from listening to your interviews, from hearing you speaking, it made you understand, having walked in other people's shoes and having walked that path yourself, exactly how much support was needed for those families and how little support was out there.
I was very scared and very alone. And I often said there was days I worried that if abortion was easily available to me, would I have taken that route? Because it's petrifying. You wake up and you don't know, is your baby going to live that day? You don't know if the baby is born alive, how that baby's going to do. And I found the only comfort I got before I found Every Life Counts was speaking to other mothers that had gone through the same. And that was the key thing. So afterwards, when my pain was extremely bad, which I didn't think I would grieve as much over a baby that I hadn't met, I vowed then that, I would make sure that I could help whatever, families that I could, that nobody would feel that alone and scared again.
And tell us, what does Every Life Counts provide?
So Every Life Counts, I kind of, I'm like, hi, I love you so much. Please let me come on board with you guys. And they provide so much. It's actually, you can't even say in one thing. There's a massive network of parents that have all been through it. It was set up by mothers for mothers and fathers, beg your pardon. And for a start, we, so the first thing is information. So we have a 24-hour, 365 days a year phone number that is answered all the time, and that's rotated between the mothers. And you can ring us, and even that first contact. Yeah. And then we will send you information leaflets, factual information leaflets on your baby's diagnosis. And then we just stay in touch with them. We provide boxes then individually. They're not one size fits all. They're all different for each family, because we get to know the families walking the journey with them. And then afterwards, which is very important, after baby is born, we support them through their grief, which is very important.
Very important. I know one mum who talked to me who had been through Every Life Counts and who had gained an awful lot from the support that you gave her, said that one thing that horrified her was that there was no counselling for her either before or after her baby was born, and that Every Life Counts got the funds together to help her with that.
We did. I mean, in the past 12 months now alone, we have funded counselling for over 10 women, and it's huge. I funded my own counselling, and for somebody that never used counselling before, I thought, I wasn't a believer in it. I feel it was what got me through. I needed that safe place to talk. Yeah. So it's great that, when we're talking to a mum, we can offer this service, and they really do appreciate it. It's amazing that we can offer that.
And I know as well that a lot of the hospitals and bereavement midwives have been in touch, and that this is all part of the learning process, I suppose, for medical staff, that they're hearing at first hand from mothers what they actually need, the support that they need to continue with their pregnancy and to pour a lifetime of love into those few minutes maybe, or maybe days, or maybe weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. We do advocacy as well. So when parents go back to have meetings with the doctors or the midwives afterwards, we go with them to those meetings, or if they have a follow-up rainbow pregnancy, we call it, we go with them to those appointments as well, because it's very hard to be pregnant after loss. It's a very scary time too. So we're constantly there for any of that advocacy that they may need. And the midwives have seen that. They will contact us if they need something, or they even say, look, could you send us up a little box, so that we have a family. So it's amazing. Yeah.
Tell us more about these boxes. I'm looking at two of the boxes here. Maybe we can open this. Oh wow! Look at these. Can you talk us through this, please, Vicky?
So
I spent ages looking for a notebook, so just a simple notebook, a card. Then again, they're all kind of unique. But one thing we done this year is we had our very own art therapy colouring book made, and we had quotes put into it that all the mothers chose.
Oh my goodness,
all our
that is
Every Life Counts
beautiful.
mothers chose the quotes to go into them, so it's very unique.
And this
it's
is a
very
form of
specific.
art therapy where mums can colour in the colouring book and think about their baby.
Yeah, and we were sending these out, they weren't our own ones, and they were like, I really love this book, you know, because you're coming home from hospital without your baby, and you know you should have your baby, and it's very difficult, so it does help. We always pop in beautiful storybooks for mum to read to baby. That's really important. We have a little pack with like a bookmark and a little bracelet that just tells all about Every Life Counts and what we do.
And what's in these envelopes? This is particularly important, I think.
Yeah, so this is how we give our information. So the diagnosis would be on it, and it's just so the parents can read it in their own time. It's very important that the information is given quite gently.
Yes. Can you open that and just show us what kind of information is available?
So this one is for a baby with anencephaly. So we would put in, we have stories there of babies with anencephaly, and just basically, you know, how to love your baby before your baby is born. And we always put in handwritten notes as well, and our helpline.
Trisomy, and they were told to go home and Google it.
Yeah.
There wasn't a leaflet in the hospital to give them. Everything seemed stacked against them, do you know, against them choosing life for the baby. And when they read these beautiful leaflets, often sharing the stories from other families, giving them the facts that they need to know, and helping them to prepare for the birth of their baby, or helping them to love baby while baby's still in the womb, that's massively important.
The pictures we find are very important, because if you Google these conditions on the internet, the pictures can be very unsettling.
Yes.
And these are pictures of babies wrapped up with their mums and their dads, and it's very different. We also provide clothing. It's clothes to wear, so we always make sure we have enough clothing ready should they need it, and we have so many hand knitted items. We have great knitters that knit for us. They're all hand knitted items.
Vicky, are these volunteers? People knit these
All
for you to give to
volunteers,
families?
They knit blankets, they knit hats, they also knit these as well. We give these are very important. So the little crochet butterflies, hand crocheted, and one goes with baby and one stays with the parents then, and just a little card.
So very special, made with great love.
Oh, absolutely.
I see what, yeah, so every box is unique. Every box is unique to the family who's getting it,
Yeah.
because every baby is unique in this situation,
Yeah.
no matter how short their lives are.
And we do memory storage for them as well, because we do memory making, and if parents want it when they're pregnant or after baby is born, we'll go and we'll do videos with them or do any memory making they want. We also have memory jewellery. That's for mum and dad as well. So we've so much, like I said, there's so much to Every Life Counts.
I think what you're doing is incredible. Like, these are the most difficult cases, very, very sick babies, very, very distressed families.
Yeah,
and what you're doing, no, Vicky, I'm not going to spare your blushes, but I know people have described your work as, you know, angelic. That what you do restores people, it heals them, it lets them find that magic time of their life. So thank you from everybody watching, I'm sure too. The amazing work done by Every Life Counts and by Vicky Wall. And before we go to our next speaker, we're going to watch some of those families and some of those people talking about Every Life Counts.
When I contacted Every Life Counts, I told them that my baby had been given a life-limiting diagnosis called anencephaly, and there was this woman on the other end, and she wrote back to me and she just sent me this big message, and I remember thinking, wow, this woman, she really gets it.
She has been great, giving me plenty of information, helping me get through everything. A simple hello or a message during the day, during one of the bad days, has really helped a lot. It has put a smile on my face, and I really appreciate all that she has done.
One of the things that I love about Every Life Counts is how they have opened up a network for me to get involved in, to give and receive support from like-minded parents who are going through something similar, who have gone through something similar. I mean, there's one thing that's brought us all together, and that's our babies, because they just get it, you know. They understand, and I understand what they're going through too. And to know that there's other people out there who do get it, and they do understand what you're going through, it's so important to know that they're there. It's even better to be able to talk to them, but to be able to call them your friends. is just incredible because we're all connected on such a level that is just so deep.
One of the issues that pro-life people find most upsetting is the horrible reality that most babies with Down syndrome are now being aborted before birth. One very brave young woman in the UK is raising her voice against this reality and is taking a court case against the British law which says that babies with Down syndrome can be aborted right up to birth. It gives me great pleasure now to talk to Heidi Crowther. Hi Heidi.
Hello, how are you?
Very good, and thank you so much for being part of the Rally for Life. So can you tell me a little about the court case you're taking and why you're taking it?
At the moment in the UK, the law states that a baby without Down syndrome can be aborted up to 24 weeks, but a baby with Down syndrome, like me, can be aborted up to birth, which is direct discrimination in the womb. So we had to make a gravity assessment, and we weighed about 20,000 in 1 week. And then my solicitor, Paul Conrath, and when he contacted the Department of Health, they said that there's no problem with it. But I think there is a problem with it.
I can imagine, Heidi, that for people with Down syndrome, they look at statistics that say 90% of people with Down syndrome, where the condition is diagnosed before they're born, are aborted. It must be very upsetting.
When I was born 25 years ago, my mum was quite upset. My mum was quite upset and angry with God. But now I know why. Because they didn't know that I can do all the stuff. They didn't know that they didn't know that I get married.
Yeah.
Yes. I have disturbed that myth.
Yes. And you're getting married this weekend, Heidi?
I am, yes.
That's really exciting. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I'm getting married to a man called James Carter, who also has an extra chromosome, and he walks that chromosome. And he's an amazing guy. He is kind, he is generous, and he's everything that I wanted a guy. And God isn't accepting of me.
Oh, that's
just to be many a time. I love you just the way you are.
That is so sweet. That's incredible. I know everybody will be rooting for you on your big day. Have you got the dress? You've got everything planned? You're really looking forward to it?
Yes, we've got the dress, and we're also having a little reception. We were going to have food at the church, but we're not allowed to have food because of COVID. So my dad is in the car business. He's got a friend called Craig who's offering to use his pub as my reception.
Incredible. Well, listen, have a beautiful day on your wedding day. Huge congratulations from everybody here. Make sure you share a photo so that we can show everybody how gorgeous you were on the day you got married. And thank you for everything you're doing to protect the right to life of people with disabilities. You're a real champion for them. Oh, Heidi Crowther, what a hero.
Yeah,
Isn't she amazing?
She's amazing. Yeah,
she's absolutely amazing. And she got married today.
Yeah, congratulations to yourself.
Yeah, congratulations, Heidi. Absolutely. I said she made the most beautiful bride.
Oh, I'd say so.
Yeah, the dress ready, everything ready.
Yeah.
And thank you and Kevin so much for coming in to be part of the Rally for
You're
Life.
welcome.
And we just love looking back at the video there from all of the important work you did with Disability Voices for Life.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was incredible. I remember we had the big rally where the theme of the rally was that every life matters.
Yeah.
I remember, Kevin, you and your mom spoke from the main stage. And
it was a great day, wasn't it, Kevin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're pro-life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. To much acclaim. I think you were the stars that year. Definitely the stars. They definitely got the most likes and shares on Facebook and everywhere else. But the court case Heidi referenced there, of course, is incredibly important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It seems ridiculous that she would have to fight for her to prove herself that she has a right to life, and that's why we got involved. I just feel like for Kevin, he needs an advocate. He needs somebody to fight his corner and to just, I suppose, show the amazing person he is and the things that he can achieve in his life.
Yes, and to show that every life matters. That was the point you made
Absolutely.
so poignantly,
Yeah.
I think, during the referendum. One of the things that Heidi said, I think, in the interview there, was that she said that, you know, what is happening with the law currently is downright discrimination.
Absolutely.
And it's such a clever, you know, use of words, but it's also incredibly powerful, because
It
I know,
is.
and it's horrible to think of it, but in the UK right now, of course, a baby can be aborted right up to birth if the baby has Down syndrome. And we all know, like, this crushingly sad statistics which are telling us that 90% of babies with Down syndrome are aborted in other countries.
Exactly.
And, you know, we have sadly no reason to think it won't be the same here.
Yeah.
But when you see Heidi standing up and
She's
taking that
amazing.
lead, does that give you hope? And
Oh, absolutely. She's a superstar. She's amazing, and she's just proof
yes.
that the discrimination is abhorrent. It's just awful.
Yeah, and wrong-headed, I think. And one of the things that really struck me in relation to how she's reaching people was that she said, you know, when she wanted to take this court cases are not easy things to take.
No.
You have to hire barristers, solicitors, put it together.
Separate.
It's a tough thing to do, and it's expensive.
Yeah.
And the reason why a lot of people don't take cases is because they think, wow, you know, how will I meet the cost of those fees?
Yeah.
And she put up a crowdfunding page,
Yeah.
and she raised 20,000 in a couple of days.
Yeah, she's wonderful. She's just, you'd want to support her every step of the way, and you know, she's just amazing.
Yeah, and great to see that hundreds of people did support her. They
Yeah,
came
they
on,
did.
everybody gave a
Absolutely.
few bob, and now the court case can go ahead.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
She is. And one of the things I thought that is remarkable, really, is that people like Heidi, like Kevin, you know, like Karen, who came here to speak, you know, they are all such remarkable people achieving so much in their lives.
Absolutely. Yeah, they've done more in their lives than a lot of typical people would do.
Yeah.
And they're just such an inspiration.
Yeah, and
They
you have people
really
with Down syndrome now going to university, going to college, working. Musicians.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw a beautiful story about the 12 best, not just the 12, but the 12
Right.
best artists with Down syndrome in the world at the moment.
Oh, wow.
Oh, it was amazing. And one of them had exhibited in the Tate in London.
Oh, wow,
You know, it's
amazing.
astonishingly beautiful
Yeah.
works of art created by people who have beautiful minds.
Absolutely. Pure hearts.
Yeah.
And I see the joy and the good in life.
Yeah, and I hear, Kevin, that you learned to rollerblade. Is rollerblade the right thing?
Yeah.
In COVID.
You
How'd
like
you
that,
find
don't
that?
you?
Yeah.
So you're going to play for Ireland?
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Why not?
How do you stay upright when you're rollerblading?
Oh, he's
That's all I
just,
always think.
he taught himself. The balance wasn't an issue. When he was born, we were told that he may never ride a bike. He flies along, no problem, and now he's on his rollerblades, self-taught. Amazing.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and I think that's been highlighted by a lot of people who work in this area.
Yeah.
That, you know, 20 years ago, or even 30 years ago, people were told if your child was born with Down syndrome that there was no hope. You know, that really the best thing often was people were told very cruel things like you should just leave them in hospital. They won't
Absolutely.
be able to do anything. And we know now like how absolutely untrue that is.
Yeah.
And surely that should spur, you know, the British government to change the law in Britain so that there
Yeah.
is no longer this horrible downright discrimination.
Absolutely.
And you know, it's a shame, isn't it, to see Simon Harris not taking the lead in that after the referendum.
Because when you find out you're vulnerable, you don't know if you're good enough, you don't know, you know, it's the fear of the unknown. But we're here to kind of say, look, don't be afraid. Life is amazing. We feel like we won the lottery with Kevin.
Yeah.
He's just amazing.
Absolutely
He's a
did.
joy. My youngest son brings me breakfast in bed, sometimes scrambled egg on toast. And this like comes with chocolate. I'm like, the difference there. Some days you just need chocolate. And Kevin always knows.
I think Kevin understands women better than most people.
Probably.
Yeah. We'd rather chocolate to scrambled eggs any day.
Yes.
So I think one of the wonderful things too about Heidi and groups like Don't Screen Us Out and Downright Discrimination is that they're keeping the voice of people with Down syndrome alive, and they're making sure that this is an issue that won't go away.
Yeah.
And I know that after the referendum, Disability Voices for Life were really disappointed that so many people didn't listen.
Yeah.
But are you hopeful now that perhaps as time progresses, people will come to a better understanding of how harmful abortion is for communities with disabilities and hope to restrict it or
I
to
think
get rid
so.
of
I
it?
think after the results came out, people, unfortunately, it was too late, but they realised that what we had been saying all along was true, and they were fooled into voting yes.
Yeah, and I know we just had some great TDs in here.
Yes,
Matty McGrath, Karen Nolan, and of
yeah.
course Paddy Tobin, and they're all working hard, I think, to get a ban on disability put into law. And it was so shameful to see Simon Harris and others just absolutely oppose that.
I know.
But they're going to fight on to try to protect people and to make sure that we have more people like Kevin enriching our communities.
Absolutely.
Anne and Kevin, thank you so much for joining us today at the Rally for Life.
Thank you.
And we're going to hear now, just in a moment, from another very special lady who at the Rally for Life. Sorry.
When I'm lying in the darkness and I'm half afraid to sleep, I keep thinking of tomorrow and the thoughts that lie so deep. Then I pray in talking whispers, 'cause I know that somewhere near is the presence of an angel come to hold me through my fears. And who are you who guides me, my messenger of light? Will you walk beside me now, beyond the day and night? Oh, who are you who guides me with words I cannot write? It's the voice of an angel, the voice of an angel, the voice of an angel, come to hold me close this night. And then I close my eyes and open the window of my heart, for I know that you will listen, even though I kiss the dark. And as I'm slowly breathing, oh, the night just lingers on. I feel the presence of an angel come to calm me with its song. And who are you who guides me, my messenger of light? Will you walk beside me now, beyond the day and night? Oh, who are you who guides me with words I cannot write? It's the voice of an angel, the voice of an angel, the voice of an angel, come to hold me close this night. It's the voice of an angel, the voice of an angel, the voice of an angel, come to hold me close this night.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share and tweet the Rally for Life on all your social media platforms. Hashtag United for Life, hashtag Rally for Life. And please donate now to support the rally. Stay tuned for more.
Next up is the moment all the ladies have been waiting for. We are delighted to introduce to you a Hollywood actor, producer and pro-life activist. So everyone, we're delighted to be joined by Mr. Eduardo Verástegui. Eduardo, great to have you at the Rally for Life. Thanks for taking the time. Can you tell us, first of all, how does a Hollywood actor and a producer end up as a pro-life activist as well?
It was in 2004. Alejandro Monteverde told me, I have the perfect story for you, Eduardo. I wrote it. It's based on a true story. And it's going to be called, well, in the beginning was a different name, but later the title was Bella. And it's a very powerful story because not only talks about the importance of life, but adoption, elevates the dignity of Latinos living in the United States, has elements of faith. So it has like, it's very complete. So at that time, I was more in the world. I was very lost before we opened this production company. And somehow when I was preparing for my role, and for those who haven't seen the movie, it's about this man who had everything, but something happened in his life, and then he lost everything. But in losing everything, he found everything that matters in life. And at the same time is this other woman who is pregnant, and she sees abortion as her only exit. And my character, Jose, helps her not to do it, and he ended up adopting her little child. So I thought, you know what, if she wants to have an abortion in the movie, what I'm going to do, because I'm a method actor, I'm going to an abortion clinic, and I'm going to bring my, piece of paper, my pencil, and I'm going to interview a few girls, and I'm going to write down everything that I'm going to hear from them, and I'm going to prepare my role so I can, switch judgment for compassion and love, and hopefully I will learn something. So when I got there in Los Angeles, California, this young lady asked me for an autograph. Her name Lorena. When she looked at me and she asked me, "What are you doing here?" I said, "Well, I'm working on a movie, but forget about me. What are you doing here?" And she tells me, "Well, I'm pregnant, and 4 months, and I can't have this baby." Next thing you know, I forgot about my movie, and I started talking to her for an hour. And that was my first time ever outside of an abortion clinic talking to someone that I didn't know. And I said, "Listen, I don't believe in accidents. There's more than 7 billion people floating in this planet, and everything that happened for you and I to be here talking, we need to pay attention to all the signals here. But listen, what's the reason behind?" And she explained me, all the reasons, and I told her, "Listen, I want to help you. I feel like you're my sister now, and we're family." And of course, we took a picture. I gave her the autograph that she asked me, but because of me, 1 hour talking, she lost her appointment. Thanks be to God.
Thank God.
So the next day, and I said to her, "Listen, we're friends now. We're family. We're brothers. You're my sister. I really want to help you." And make a long story short, meeting her helped me a lot in my movie. But forget about my movie, because after I finished the movie Bella, I came back to Los Angeles and I received a call from her husband, and Javier, and he started yelling me at the beginning, Eduardo. And I thought something wrong happened, oh my gosh, something bad happened and now it's gonna be my fault, And I said, "Javier, it's everything okay? Calm down, please." And he said, "Eduardo," and he starts crying. I said, "My boy was born yesterday, and we're gonna call him Eduardo, just like you. thank you for saving our baby. Can you come to the hospital? I want you to meet Eduardito. Man, I put my phone down. I started crying too, because I never thought in a million years that by going to this place to do my homework as an actor, I was going to be end up used as an instrument by the grace of God, saving the life of Eduardo. So when I was carrying little Eduardito in my arms, and I was looking at him, I started singing songs. You know, he was my son right there. You know, and I remember that day looking up and asking God, please use me as an instrument. I wanna join the army of warriors who are fighting day and night all over the world, defending and protecting human dignity, protecting life from the beginning until natural death. I want to be one of them. I want to use my talents. I want to use my life. I want to use, you know, my skills, whatever you gave me. I want to give back to you and to humanity. So please use me. And that's how I started my life, whatever. And this movie not only saved little Eduardito, by the grace of God, thousands of human lives right now are here by the grace of God, because this little movie called Bella that has changed the lives of so many people, including my own life.
That's so special, Eduardo, and it's incredible to hear the good fruit that came immediately from your acting career. I suppose you're acting in Bella, but also from the movie itself. So tell us, what have you been up to since Bella? Because I know you have a number of different initiatives that you've been working on for years to help women who are in crisis.
Yes, well, you know, after that experience, I started going every Saturday to different, you know, abortion centers in Los Angeles, especially in this Latino Hispanic neighborhood. I learned that there was 10 abortion centers within 1 mile. So I started going to every Saturday to all these places with my friends and saving lives. And I got addicted to just go there every Saturday for hours. And because I thought there is nothing better. There is nothing better. I can do like whatever, you know, 1,000 movies. It doesn't compare just to be here face to face, saving the life of someone and putting in practice the golden rule: do to others what you want them to do to you, right? So then every Saturday I started going there until one day I thought, you know what? We need a pro-life center here in the middle of in the middle of these 10 abortion centers. We need, but not just the center, we need the best doctors, we need the best ultrasounds, we need the best of the best. And we started that called Guadalupe Medical Center. And how we raise funds to put this into practice, we did an event called Latinos Unidos por la Vida, which is Latinos United for Life. And with two missions. The first one is to raise awareness in the Latino community, why we need to defend life, because sometimes a lot of ignorance and we don't know, just like me before, I didn't know. How? By bringing the best speakers, but at the same time, entertainment. So you can, you use entertainment as the hook. 10,000 people came. Can you imagine Los Angeles, big stadium, 10,000 people, all, you know, one day, a lot of speakers and singers and everything. And we raised exactly what we needed to open the medical center. We did the event like 2 years. But then, you know, I got busy with the second movie, which was called Little Boy. And then the third movie, which is Sound of Freedom, which is the one that we're doing right now, which is on human trafficking.
In Mexico in particular, and finally, I suppose, because I know you're a busy man, you have lots to do, what is the situation there? Because it's a country that has had pro-life laws for so long. Are they under threat at the moment?
The good news is the majority of Mexico, 80% or more of the Mexican family here in our country, they are pro-life, pro-family, pro-religious liberty, pro-marriage, pro-moral values. What's the bad news then? We are not well organized. We are not articulated. We are not, we don't know how to work together. And the other side, they are the minority, but they make a lot of noises. The good news is we are going to start a new tour very soon with the new movie, Sound of Freedom. So we can, you know, invite everyone in Mexico to be part of this movement that is going to defend, human rights, but is going to create bridges of opportunities between all the organizations that are fighting for different things, children in the streets, everything that I mentioned before. So let's all work together and let's make Mexico, better and better every day, but starting from the education with the moral values, because if we don't have the moral values and our spiritual life rooted in God, then there's no way we are going to survive,
Well, Eduardo, it's so inspiring what you're doing, to be quite honest, and we wish you all the very best from Ireland. And thanks for being with us at the Rally for Life.
Well, hermanos, I just want to tell you that I'm going to be, I've been praying a rosary every day live on my Facebook and YouTube since we started this, since the pandemic started, with 20 to 60,000 people from different parts of the world. And I do it in Spanish. So I'm going to be praying the rosary live in the next hour. And I want to tell you that you're going to be in my prayers every day, Ireland, and especially all the good people who are fighting for life. I promise you that you will be in my daily prayers. And I just ask you for the same, to pray for me so I can be faithful to God every day for the rest of my life. God bless you guys. And I hope to come to your country very soon.
Thank you, Eduardo. God bless you.
People might be surprised to discover that the abortion pill reversal treatment is available in Ireland currently, and any doctor who wants to is able to prescribe this to reverse the effects of the abortion pill.
It's a misnomer really, because it's called a reversal. It should be really annotated as a rescue pill. So progestogen is the main hormone of pregnancy. In the early part of pregnancy, progestogen keeps the pregnancy alive. And mifepristone, which is the drug that's used as the abortion pill, shuts off the progestogen. So the rescue pill reorchestrates the progestogen and keeps the pregnancy alive. And that's essentially how it works. So it is a hormone that's within the human body. It's been used historically for polycystic ovaries, for PMT, and for miscarriage. So there's a lot of evidence over the years about using progestogen. It is completely safe in pregnancy.
So over the last 20 years, I've prescribed progesterone thousands of times, and it's a very safe treatment. In recent times, a new kind of threatened miscarriage has come about. That is one that is threatened because a woman has taken a pill to block progesterone and threaten a miscarriage. Sometimes, if a woman takes this pill, she can immediately have regret and decide, what have I done? Hang on a second, I've changed my mind.
We brought it in to help people who have regret, and every patient, no matter what their feelings are, can experience regret. And this can be administered by both pro-life doctors and pro-choice doctors. I think even pro-choice doctors should have an element how to address the patient's regret.
If you're a pro-choice doctor, then you're pro a multitude of choices, not just one. And you can, with very solid medical basis, you can give progesterone to reverse the effect of the abortion pill for women who change their mind. It happens. I prescribed progesterone to a woman in that exact situation who phoned up my practice and said, I have taken the abortion pill, I'm 9.5 weeks pregnant and I've changed my mind. Is there anything you can do to help me? She was really regretful for the decision she had made, and she changed her mind. So I explained to her, well, I don't know for sure if we could help, but we can try. I'm familiar with the work of Dr. Delgado in the United States, where he has given progesterone to try and block the to block the effect of the abortion pill and try and help you to keep your pregnancy. Everybody knows it's safe during pregnancy, and incredibly, the abortion pill itself, which blocks progesterone, seems to be safe for the baby if baby survives. So if you keep your pregnancy, your baby won't be at risk because of that. Long story short, I got the progesterone to her, gave her the progesterone, and we helped her to keep her pregnancy. And she was unbelievably appreciative for the medical intervention.
In Ireland, Doctors for Life are launching their website next week, and we are behind the abortion rescue pill. and there'll be a number of consultants that will be available and doctors. And it's important too that the patient gets an early scan, because we want to make sure we rule out ectopic pregnancy, and we want the patient to be completely safe. The rescue pill is taken after mifepristone, and the success rate is 68 to 70%. It has very low success if it's taken after misoprostol, so timing is the essential element here.
She was so appreciative. She sent me a picture of her scan 3 weeks later, and the note that went with it is, everything is perfect, baby is fine, heartbeat is perfect, I'm 11 weeks and 4 days and so happy, and I just want to thank you for everything. I've never been so delighted, ever so glad I contacted you from the start. This was such a big help, and you helped me through it. And she just said it was an answer to her prayers. And it's just a very satisfying thing to be able to help somebody who is in that situation.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share and tweet the Rally for Life on all your social media platforms. Hashtag United for Life, hashtag Rally for Life. And please donate now to support the rally. Stay tuned for more.
How inspirational to hear that from Dr. Trevor and Dr. Phil about abortion pill reversal. And we're joined now at the Rally for Life by Dr. Deirdre Gleeson, who's the chairperson of Doctors for Life. Very welcome, Deirdre.
Thank you, Niamh. It's lovely to be here with the Rally for Life, and thank you for inviting Doctors for Life to take part. This is an important event every year in our annual calendar.
Oh, I know, and you're always there at the rally with your banner, and Doctors for Life, I think, are a real inspiration to so many people for the great work that you're doing. And this is incredibly good news today that people are hearing at the rally, that you're offering real hope and choice to women who may have taken that first abortion pill, sometimes in fear and panic, and who want to save their baby. And we saw Dr. Phil saying there that you're going to launch a new website for this service very soon.
So the website will go live later next week, in the next few days. It's almost ready to go live. And it has been a lot of hard work getting it over the line, and a lot of doctors, nurses, pharmacists have helped us and put a huge amount of effort. So the website is a real beacon of hope for women. We know that many women who take the first pill immediately feel regret and immediately want to reverse. They want to reverse the first pill. The first pill is mifepristone, as you know, which is an anti-progesterone analogue, and it's very simple. You just replace the progesterone with normal hormonal progesterone with cyclogest. So we know that it works, and we have a lot of studies to prove that, particularly the study by Delgado and Mary Davenport, that this is effective in 64 to 68% of cases. So it really is, it's really important, and it offers another line of hope to women and to unborn babies. The website then is, we have collaborated with our colleagues in the UK, which is a first. So pro-life doctors in the UK and pro-life doctors in Ireland have worked to put this website together, and we have collaborated with Heartbeat International, who run a 24-hour helpline, e-chat, email, telephone support. So if women log on to our website here, which is both live in the UK and in Ireland, they will find out. They will find out information about how APR works. And they will also be put in touch with a doctor in Ireland or in the UK who prescribes APR. Then they can make contact with the doctor, and the doctor will do, if possible, a face-to-face consult, but if not, it'll be done a remote consultation. So our website has 2 pages, one for women and how it works and how they can access APR, and then for women where it's too late. If they have taken the second pill, it's too late. So we will still offer that woman support. We will put her in touch with the likes of Gianna Care and yourselves here in Life Institute, so that they can still have healing and hope. We will still work with the woman whatever stage she's at.
So then a really comprehensive service.
So the second page is for healthcare workers, for health professionals, doctors, midwives, pharmacists especially, and that outlines the medical evidence and the science behind APR, how it works. We have a consent form. We have a very good, robust clinical protocol that we've worked very hard to devise, and that will give Irish doctors and UK doctors reassurance as to if they need to find out how to prescribe it, how it works, and the importance, the GDPR issues, the consent, the confidentiality issues, the patient autonomy issues. A woman has a right to change her mind, and if she chooses to change her mind, we're there to help her and to provide her with abortion pill rescue.
That is wonderful, and I think one of the things that was really important that came across in the video there when I'm speaking to you here is that women need to know that this is effective. You're saying it's effective up to 68% of the time, and that it's safe. And I think that's very important for women to understand that. So if you go to take the abortion pill, a lot of people might not understand that it's actually a two-step process. So you take one pill, and then afterwards you take another pill to expel the baby.
That's right,
but because what the first pill does is to kind of turn down the effect of progesterone, so you no longer think you're pregnant, what you have to do then to reverse that abortion or to rescue the baby, as Dr. Trevor says, is simply to give the woman progesterone.
Natural
so it's
progesterone.
Safe, totally safe and effective.
What the anti-progesterone agent mifepristone does is it blocks the progesterone receptors and it causes the placenta to detach, and thereby the baby dies. What we do in APR is we prescribe natural progesterone as an antidote to the mifepristone.
And that's been done for years, Deirdre?
That has been done. Progesterone has been used in pregnancy for about 40 years.
Wow.
And again, we have studies on our website that show that the safety of prescribing progesterone in pregnancy. It's widely used by GPs, it's widely used by obstetricians and fertility specialists in particular would have a lot of experience prescribing progesterone in threatened miscarriage and in early pregnancy. So it's quite safe. There is no increased incidence of adverse effect on the mother or the unborn baby. It is simple natural progesterone that we are
And that's a very important point. So for women who have taken the first abortion pill, then who have gone through the abortion pill reversal process, we've given the progesterone, you're not seeing any more negative outcomes for their baby than you would in the general population.
That's right, and we will offer ongoing support to the woman in that situation. We'll also give her a copy of the prescription for her own GP, so should she choose to go to her GP for follow-up care. But it is always important to travel with the woman and to be with her no matter what stage that she is at. We provide abortion pill reversal free of charge.
Wow.
The doctors do it voluntarily, and if any doctor wants to sign up to be an abortion pill reversal prescriber, they'll find details of that on our website. Which is, of course, in stark contrast to doctors who prescribe the abortion pill get paid €450, and doctors who look after women throughout the entire 9 months of pregnancy and 6 weeks afterwards get paid about €250. So we're doing this free of charge.
Yeah, you could really see Simon Harris's priorities, I think, when those pay levels were set. But you're actually doing this for free, and all the doctors and nurses who are signing on to help to provide abortion pill reversal are doing it for free, and you're really to be commended for that. I know Doctors for Life, working with nurses and Midwives for Life, built up this very strong network, and you were so brave in the referendum, so many outspoken voices, and also afterwards looking for conscientious objection and looking to help women in a positive way. What would you say, Deirdre, just finally to the rally, for doctors and nurses and midwives, healthcare professionals who are watching, how can they get involved, how can they help?
Well, they can contact Doctors for Life or Nurses and Midwife for Life. We both have websites and Facebook pages. We'd be delighted. We're always looking for new members. Of course, we're getting busier and busier. At one point, there was only a handful of us, but now there's several hundred of us. So we have come together. We hope that one day the Eighth Amendment will be reinstated, and we believe that it will. It may take us 30 years, but that is the long-term plan, and we will never give up hope, and we will continue to fight for the right to life of people at all stages of life, be it unborn or the very elderly. So we as doctors and nurses will stand together to fight for the right to life of our patients.
Dr. Deirdre Gleeson coming to us today with that incredibly good news about giving women their ability to reverse their abortion and save their baby. Thank you very much for talking to us at the Rally for Life.
Next up, we're bringing you news of a book that's just been published by a Canadian author here during the abortion referendum and documented the history of the Irish pro-life movement. It's called Patriots, the Story of Ireland's Pro-Life Movement, and it can be ordered at thelifeinstitute.net.
For 35 years, Ireland's 8th Amendment protected both mother and child from abortion. Hundreds of thousands of lives were saved, and Irish maternal health care was also amongst the best in the world. Ireland was described by abortion campaigners as the jewel in the crown of the pro-life movement. But that became one of the reasons why international funding poured into a campaign to repeal the 8th Amendment. On May 25, 2018, that legal protection for preborn babies was stripped away after a deeply divisive campaign, which saw the media relentlessly spin the narrative that the removal of the 8th Amendment was necessary to protect women's lives. While the international news stories focused on the result of the referendum, until now, the history of Ireland's pro-life protections and the people, the movement, the events and campaigns that kept abortion at bay has never been written. This is the untold story of Ireland's pro-life movement, of the ordinary men and women who did extraordinary work to ensure Ireland's unborn babies were protected for decades after most of the Western world had fallen to the abortion industry. It's the story of how the 8th was won, how the 8th was lost, and how hundreds of thousands of lives were saved in between. Jonathan Van Maren tells how Ireland's constitutional ban on abortion came about, how thousands of unlikely heroes fought for years to save the lives of children whom they may never even meet, persevering in the face of a hostile culture, a contemptuous media, and powerful political opposition. Too often, the stories of the pro-life movement are told by others. They are told by a pro-abortion media who act more like attack dogs than journalists. This is the real story of the thousands of people who put boots on the ground to fight tooth and nail for the life of every preborn baby. Of the men and women who fought with their ancestors at their backs and their children in their hearts, fired by the rock-solid conviction that Ireland's babies were worth fighting for. It is the story of how they succeeded in that fight for decades, and how the exploitation of a woman's tragic death was used as a battering ram to breach those defences. It's the story of resilience and defiance that is even now raising up the movement once again. It's time for this story to be told. Pre-order your copy of Patriots, The Untold Story of Ireland's Pro-Life Movement today.
So the pro-life movement in Ireland has always been unique for a couple of important reasons. The first reason that I found during my research for this book is the fact that in most nations, what we see is progressive left-wing forces seeking to legalize abortion, and then pro-lifers and social conservatives responding to this threat. What we have in Ireland is something different. They realized very early on, in fact, they realized by watching Roe v. Wade pass in the United States, that this was going to be coming to Ireland very soon. They realized which legal arguments were going to be used to legalize abortion in Ireland, and they actually got out ahead of this. What they did was, after seeing Roe v. Wade in the United States, they decided to put constitutional protections for preborn children right into Ireland's constitution to guarantee that if abortion was ever to be legalized in Ireland, it would require a referendum. And so this is exceptional for a couple of reasons. One, the story of how they pulled this off in the 1983 referendum is really just an exceptional story. I thought it was an incredible story just to research because a lot of people don't know a whole lot about how that referendum went down, precisely how strategic, how intelligent the pro-life movement was in getting this through, how fast they organized. There was one top journalist who actually referred to the campaign to get the 8th Amendment through in 1983 as one of the great political coups of the 20th century. And it's one that very few people have heard about. And it's one, frankly, that more pro-lifers should know about because it's just an exceptional victory. And by getting the 8th Amendment in, hundreds of thousands of Irish lives were saved. Right? We can just look at history backwards. We can look at history backwards through the lens of the 2018 referendum and think, oh, well, the 8th Amendment eventually fell 35 years later. The story has a tragic ending. But there's another way to look at the story as well, which is the fact that the 8th Amendment held for 35 years and hundreds of thousands of people are alive because the 8th Amendment held for as long as it did. And so I think that pro-lifers often spend so much time reading stories about the heroes of the Holocaust rescuers, the civil rights marchers, the abolitionists, that we forget that our movement now has been around long enough that there are heroes in our own movement for us to stop and think about and admire. And my story of the Irish movement is my offering to the pro-life movement, that we have our own heroes we can take inspiration from, and I certainly have taken inspiration from those I got to interview. So the book is called Patriots, The Untold Story of Ireland's Pro-Life Movement. The reason we called it Patriots is just because the people who were fighting on the streets for decades did so out of a deep love of country and a deep love for the children of their country. They did it for children that were not their children were safe, but they did it for their nation. They really felt like the fact that Ireland was pro-life was profoundly Irish, that it had something to say about the character of the country and the character of the people. And I felt like it certainly has a lot to say about the character of the people that I met, the people that I interviewed for this book. They really were some of the most exceptional people that I've ever met. I was proud to have those conversations with them and really felt privileged to be able to write this story. I was only able to write this story because so many of them shared their stories with me. So I want to do a couple of things with the book. I'm really hoping, one, that it provides a counterbalance to all of the books that are coming out. All these thousands of people who fought for decades are going to see in the newspaper, see on the TV shows, see, and I'm sure, the inevitable BBC documentaries and journalist books, that the good team finally won, that the mean-spirited pro-lifers, the defenders of the patriarchy were finally vanquished, and these plucky feminists and progressives finally dragged Ireland kicking and screaming into modernity. And even though I've only written one book, and I'm sure there will be many books on the other side, I hope this book provides a counterbalance. And not only for the people who did that work, but for their kids and for their grandkids, so that they can say, here was the real story, here's what we actually did, here's why it was worth doing, here's how we felt, and here's why we would do it all again. And the last thing I hope that the book does accomplish is I hope it inspires those who have been really depressed by the result of the referendum, really lost their courage. Some people I know have, they've told me this, have just felt so dispirited by the 2018 referendum result that they don't know where to find inspiration, one of them said to me. And I hope they get inspiration by reading their own story. I think the only place that the Irish pro-lifers need to look for inspiration is the story of the pro-life activists who came out in the years prior to 1983, the pro-lifers who engineered the 1983 referendum that gave us the Eighth Amendment, that fought for decades to make sure the Eighth Amendment stayed in place, that fought so many different campaigns, that beat the media, that beat the European Union, that beat the government, that beat the politicians time and time and time again. For those who are looking for the inspiration they need to take courage and to get out there once again and to fight for the babies once again, I think that the inspiration lies in their own story, in their own parents, their own grandparents, and in many cases in themselves. If they can be reminded of what they did, why it was worth doing, then maybe they'll read this book and come to the last chapter and think it's time to do that all over again, because it was worth every single minute. So the book Patriots, if you're in North America, you can purchase at thebridgehead.ca. And if you're in Ireland, you can purchase this book at lifeinstitute.net.
Now at Rally for Life 2020, we're absolutely delighted to welcome Carolyn O'Mara and Gianna Kerr. Frontline work being done every day to help women who have unexpected pregnancies has of course become all the more important and busier for those volunteers involved ever since the 8th was repealed. Gianna Kerr, which is much admired for the incredible work it does in this very important area, is with us today at the Rally for Life, and we're delighted to have Carolyn O'Mara and to have Nissa and Ryan here to chat to us about Gianna Kerr and the work that they do. So can we come to you first, Nissa? This is Ryan. Hi, Ryan. Isn't he absolutely gorgeous? I'm going to hold this mic over to you when we're having a chat. He's absolute dote. Hi, Ryan. Look at his big blue brown eyes. He's so cute. What a darling. So, Nissa, you had a little girl, Michaela. Yeah. Who wants the mic? Every baba wants the mic. You had a little girl, Michaela, and then you discovered that you were pregnant with Ryan. Yeah. And your student visa was going to expire. Yeah. Can you tell us, how does that feel?
It was really a tough time, and I didn't know how to get through with it. Like, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to talk to. But then I had been in contact with Gianna Care before, because they help, like, they have always been there since Michaela was born. So it was like, I talked to Jacinta, who's one of the volunteers in Gianna Care, and I told her about it, and she told me not to worry. And because she, not only is she a volunteer, but she's kind of like become my friend. So at least I had a shoulder to cry on then. But they have been with me since Ryan was born then, up until now.
That's amazing, and he's such a beautiful little boy. Congratulations on Ryan.
Thank
Hi,
you.
Ryan. He's an absolute darling,
Yeah,
isn't he?
he is.
And can you talk to us, though, about how vulnerable and scary and lonely that can feel? If when you're having a baby, when perhaps you don't have a job, you don't have that kind of security, it can feel very alone and frightening. And, you know, can you talk to us about that and to give people a better understanding of how sometimes women can feel so vulnerable and alone and in need of good support?
Yeah, like for me, it took me to a point whereby I think I didn't know how to deal with it anymore, and it affected me mentally to a point whereby I had to go to St. Vincent's Hospital, and it was really hard, but like I said, I had people with me, and that kept me going, that kept me reassured that I would be okay.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just words that they say to me, it's going to be okay, and not like, they showed me the actions of being there and checking up on me when I needed. And when I needed to talk to someone, like Jacinta has always been there for me, and she told me, you can call me any time of the day, like I will be there if you need someone. And they've offered support, like for me to talk to someone. So they really helped me. Like I really don't know where I would be if it wasn't for Gianna Care.
That's wonderful to hear that. It's wonderful to hear about the continuity of care.
Yeah.
That's because I think that's true. Like, I've had 4 babies, and I think a pregnancy isn't an announcement and then nothing happens until 9 months. You know, every day there are new, sometimes difficulties to deal with and challenges, and it's hard to go through that when you're on your own. But you did, because you had the support for Gianna Care, and now you've got this gorgeous little boy. Can you talk to us about Ryan?
Well, when I was pregnant for Ryan, really, like I said, because I was in a difficult place. When I was pregnant, I didn't feel the love of, like I felt like I didn't love him when I was pregnant. But I think over time, and I think just having him born kind of changed everything. And knowing that I'm gonna be okay, and he's gonna be okay, and he's here, he's my little human. So I think he's a good child. Like I look at him and I see where I have come from and where I am now, and he makes me proud of myself and who I've become.
Well, I'm sure he's very proud of his mom too, and he's
Hopefully.
an absolutely gorgeous little boy. Look at those eyes. He's going to be a charmer. Are you going to be a heartbreaker, Ryan? I think you might be. What's your hopes now? What are your hopes going forward?
Well, I really hope that I get a chance to be given my stay here, so that I can go back to school and be able to stand up on my own and help other people and see my kids through it as well.
That's absolutely lovely. I think that's what every mother wants, isn't it? To be able to provide security and safety for our
their
kids,
kids,
to know that they're loved, and that
true.
people are there to support and help
Yeah.
when that's needed.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming in to chat to us, yourself and Ryan. And we're going to talk to Carolyn O'Mara now from Gianna Care. And people, I think, Carolyn, will be very familiar with your work. And, you know, we said at the beginning that it's become even more important, sadly, since the 8 was repealed. And you've expanded. You've expanded the services from Dublin and other outlying agencies to at least to Kerry and Galway and elsewhere. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so we've been really, really busy. Even just alone in the month of June, we had 82 women contact us. That's just the month of June, so we were topping up the numbers the other day. So women contact us for a variety of reasons. It could be needing a pregnancy test, or there are lots of women in crisis pregnancy situations. Lots of women in crisis pregnancy who are continuing on with their pregnancy and not considering abortion, but they just need a lot of support. Mothers needing maternity bags, you know, the hospital bags. when they're just about to go in and have their babies. So lots and lots of inquiries and calls and follow up with all of those. So it's been a wonderful opportunity for us to expand recently, and the need for expansion, although it has to be slow to be done right.
Yeah.
In 2018 we opened up our centre in Galway. Wonderful achievement, and you'll see Laura Thornton a little bit later in the video, but she's the local director there, and all the wonderful volunteers, of course, that are down in Galway. So that's up and running since 2018 and getting busier. And then as recent as April, we just opened Gianna Care Kerry.
Wow. So amazing. And all of these things happening, of course, because you have so many good people, so many volunteers who come on board, who help these new centres open, who provide this daily support to women every day. So some amazing volunteers involved.
Yeah, I'd really like to take this opportunity, Niamh, to thank each and every one of them, from answering calls on the helpline to coordinating the helpline and changing over those calls every day to the next volunteer that will take the calls. The women who man the live chat on our website 24/7, including the helpline. The link volunteers that we have, I'll explain a little bit more about that, but they support our clients, running the offices.
Tell us a little bit more about that. What's a link volunteer?
A link volunteer,
for people who are watching.
Yeah, sure. A link volunteer or a client support worker is the person that is going to be in the local area to support the woman. And I think this is a really important thing and a really prominent thing in Gianna Care. And I think, to be honest with you, it's probably one of the most important things. So, for example, we'll get a call from a woman who's living in a particular area and she's in a crisis or she's in a difficulty and she's stressed. So we discuss that with her. Then we try to find out where she is she situated. And then we link her in with the local support. And what that local support does, it enables that woman to feel really, really secure. It also enables that woman to feel like there's a close community. There's that person who isn't far away, 2 miles, whatever it might be, but that they can reach out to them. Listen, I need such and such a thing. That link person always has the support of us, you know, in headquarters or in the local office. They'll always have a person that they can ask. But the link person provides that direct contact. We try to remove all the red tape and the barriers needed to the support. That's really, really important that we remove all of that.
That's a tremendous idea. So what you're doing is you're bringing in people of goodwill all around the country to provide this tangible, real support that women need. And I think just talking to Nis and to Ryan, you know, it's very evident, I think, that sometimes we think of crisis pregnancy and we think, oh, a woman needs a phone call, perhaps an ultrasound and a bag of nappies, but that's not what crisis pregnancy support actually means. It's really, I think, about walking, you know, from listening to you, from listening to the mums who've helped, it's really about walking with women through their pregnancy. And sometimes they are in very difficult situations. You know, I know from people who volunteered at Gianna Care, sometimes people don't have somewhere to sleep that night. They've just been told they're pregnant and they don't have a home. They don't have a winter coat. They don't have a means of getting to their appointment. Can you talk to us a little bit about that, about the wraparound element of the care, the full comprehensive level of services that you provide?
Yeah, I suppose when you're not in the front line, I suppose maybe working with women in these situations, it can be hard to maybe kind of get your head around maybe what that situation might entail. So when a woman comes to us, every woman is going to be individual and with their own story and with their own needs. So obviously we have to assess where their needs are at. But some of the cases are very, very difficult and very challenging. We had a woman recently, for example, who lived in a rural part of Ireland. Now, to complicate things more, she had a disability. So it meant getting to her hospital appointments was a real challenge for her. So what we did was we contacted, you know, her link person knew that this was a challenge. She got in touch with us and we easily just arranged transport to and from her appointments. But the level of stress that was lifted off that woman, because transport is sorted now for every one of her visits, and she also has a companion for the visits.
Oh, absolutely lovely.
It's wonderful.
I think anybody watching this here today will understand like the importance of the work that Gianna Care does. You know, there are so many pressures on women to have abortions. They're not getting, really shocking for people to hear, I think, that if you ring the My Options helpline, you don't get told about Gianna Care. You don't get told that there are crisis pregnancy agencies there who will help you have your baby. But you get told where you can have an abortion.
That's
and you
true,
get told
Nick.
that it's free to have an abortion, but you don't get told about this essential kind of care that Janacare is offering. Everybody who's watching, I'd strongly encourage you, get involved. You can fundraise, you can become a link volunteer. So many ways you can help this amazing organisation to have precious little babies like Ryan, to make sure that women are supported and that babies are cherished. Carolyn, Nissa, Ryan, special to Ryan, thank you so much for coming in to join us today. And before we leave this segment on Janacare at the Rally for Life, we're going to go to a lovely video from Janacare, Kerry and Galway, who are going to show us their new premises.
Hi, my name is Marie, I'm the director here at Janacare in Kerry, and I'm Katrina and I'm the other director. Come inside and we'll show you the centre. We'll have to excuse the place now, it's in a bit of a mess. We're in the middle of doing renovations. The office itself has been closed because of the coronavirus. We haven't been able to open yet, but we're hoping to be open in the next 2 weeks.
This is just a snippet here of some of the items that we're going to be given to one of our moms who contacted us around 3 months ago. She mainly needed emotional support, but one of her big stressors was that she wasn't going to be able to provide items for her new baby. So thankfully we've been able to alleviate that stress, and we're going to be delivering these things to her very, very soon. But this wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for the donations that we received from the people of Kerry. You wouldn't believe that the door has been opened so many times, bringing in items. We have a room upstairs that's packed from the floor to the ceiling with baby items, and we're just so appreciative of those people who have given so generously to Janacare Kerry.
And we want to put out there to know as well that although we do provide practical supports, we also provide them with emotional supports that they need for during their pregnancy and for as long after as they need us. We know that being pregnant, especially being in an unplanned pregnancy, can be really frightening for women. We want them to know that we're here for them, and we're here to empower them to continue with their pregnancies and to provide them to help to alleviate any obstacles that are preventing them from continuing with their pregnancies. And so if you ever want to contact us, I'm sure Carolyn has given you the email address and the phone number to get in contact. We're here 24/7, and whenever you need us, we're here for you. Thank you.
Thanks, bye.
Hi everybody, it's Laura here from Janacare in Galway. I'm joined today by Marielle, who is one of our Janacare Galway mums. She's a beautiful little girl who's nearly 12 weeks old. Her name is Harley. Marielle found herself in a crisis pregnancy when she had lost her job and found out that she was expecting her baby. And she was offered abortion 3 times in Galway, but never offered the option to choose life or the support that she needed for that until she found Janacare. Marielle, you're so welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. And if you want to tell us a little bit about your story, that would be great.
Thank you so much, Laura. So Janacare is such a big help for me. They helped me find suitable accommodation and provided me with equipment and baby's clothes. The most important thing here is they gave me psychological support. And then when I went for checkups, I was not told about these organizations and for the support for the women, pregnant women.
Thanks so much, Marielle. Well, Marielle and Harley are doing really well at the moment, but we can't do this kind of work in Galway or across the country without all your support, your donations and helping us spreading the word. And we have an office here in Galway that's open nearly 2 years, and we're providing support for crisis pregnancies, whatever support that woman may need, whether it's emotional, practical or financial support, with counselling and practical items and just client support workers. So thank you so much.
Next up, we have the wonderful Maria's theme. Now we're delighted to be joined by the wonderful Maria Steen, who was such an important part of the pro-life campaign and effort during the abortion referendum. So, Maria, thanks very much, first of all,
Not
for
at
coming
all,
in.
Tim.
Maria, in the programme for government, a lot of people are very concerned now that the new government is really radically planning to clamp down on what are peaceful protests outside abortion clinics.
Mm-hmm.
What are your own thoughts? Can you explain it first of all to us?
This is a kind of almost unprecedented. There is a law that was brought in some councils in England, but throughout the rest of the Western world, this is a very unusual thing to happen. It's basically censorship zones or no-go areas for pro-life people around abortion clinics or hospitals. And the proposal from the new government is that these exclusion zones be introduced around Irish hospitals to prevent people, as you say, holding either prayer vigils or protests or even offering care to women, offering an alternative choice. Despite the fact that they say they're pro-choice, they don't want women to have the choice of saving the lives of their children. So this is the proposal that the government have put forward. It's an extremely worrying proposal for anybody who cares about a democracy, not just because of this pro-life issue, but potentially for any number of range of issues. It's also unclear as to how the government are proposing to legalise this, because on the face of it, unless they specifically name and mark out pro-life people, a ban from protesting or conducting a vigil outside of a hospital might also apply to somebody, for instance, who wanted to protest against a health scandal or the likes of cervical check or other health scandals that might crop up over the years. And so it looks like the government would have to specifically target a group of people with a particular group of religious or moral views regarding the sanctity of life and the idea that every life is precious. If you happen to hold this view, the government thinks that you deserve to have your civil rights trampled upon. And that's a very worrying thing in a democracy.
And so Garda Commissioner Drew Harris has already said that pro-lifers aren't breaking any laws and they're of no threat to anyone as far as he's concerned.
No.
So is it just that a very ideological government and cohort of politicians are pushing this?
Well, it would seem so, and it would seem sad actually that whatever about Fine Gael, they marked their cards in terms of how they proceeded in the last government introducing abortion into the country. But certainly the new coalition members seem to be also rowing in behind them on this one. And as you say, the Commissioner, Drew Harris, the Garda Commissioner, has said there is absolutely no evidence of intimidation or harassment of women seeking abortion services by pro-life people who are holding vigils outside these places. And I suppose fundamentally the idea that it is anti-democratic, as Simon Harris called it back in January, I think it was, that it was anti-democratic to hold a vigil or protest outside a hospital, is very strange, considering that these are people praying for mothers and their babies going into the hospital, offering an alternative choice to anybody who might change their mind about it. And the idea that this is somehow anti-democratic when what is happening inside the hospital is so morally repugnant to at least a third of our population. And we have to assume that although 2/3 of the people in this country voted to take away the last remaining human right of the child in the womb and indeed to bring in abortion, that some of them at least did so with some kind of regret or not being sure about whether it was the right thing that they were doing.
And would this type of law excluding people from protest in certain areas be unconstitutional? Or if it was actually constitutional, could it be appealed to Europe?
Well, I mean, that's all, I suppose, to be seen yet. I can't imagine that any lawyer would say this is not problematic. It seems to be seriously problematic given the fundamental rights that are recognised in the Irish Constitution. The right to assemble peaceably, the right to express one's opinion, to have, and your religious, to practice your religious beliefs as well. So for instance, that would apply to those praying outside of a hospital. Any ban would, on the face of it, be, an offence against those persons' fundamental rights under the Constitution to practice their religion openly.
And do we know if any of these cases have went as far as Europe yet, or maybe Ireland might be the guinea pig?
Not to my knowledge in this country anyway. That's all, I suppose, to be played out yet. But it'll be interesting to see how the government chooses to deal with this.
Yeah, I suppose in the wider picture then, we're living in a country that's radically different from probably the one we all grew up in.
Indeed.
And has changed very dramatically. So a lot of people are asking themselves, how can we pass on our values to the coming generations, our own families, our children, etc. Because it is an increasingly hostile environment that we're in.
Yes, that's true. But I think I've said before to you and to others, I think there is a certain freedom in realising that actually we're not living in a pro-life country, we're not living in a Christian country anymore, because we know the lie of the land now, and we know what it is that we're dealing with, the culture that we're dealing with. So there's a book written by a man called Rod Dreher called The Benedict Option. And in it he kind of offers strategies for Christians living in a post-Christian world, and particularly in a Western world. And he uses the example of Saint Benedict of Nursia, who was a young man who was living at the end of the fall of the Roman Empire and decided to withdraw from the culture in which he found himself. He was disgusted with the decadent culture he saw around and the loss of what had been a once great civilization. And so he withdrew from Rome and formed monastic communities, which basically provided a kind of continuity for civilization, for faith, and for learning throughout the Dark Ages, as they're sometimes called. And so Rod Dreher kind of uses this as an example to inspire people nowadays. So for those who are feeling, I suppose, disillusioned with the culture around them, the idea that 2 out of every 3 people in this country, or of those who voted at least, voted, as I say, to take away the last remaining human right of the child in the womb. What he would say is, look, nourish yourselves and your children. It's this idea of a retreat to kind of take stock, to build oneself up, to nourish, not to stay in retreat, but then to go out again into the world, having been nourished and having nourished your own children. And there's also another idea about retreat, which is interesting in a Christian sense. It's struck me before that St. Joseph's retreat into Egypt with the child Jesus, who was in his care, and his mother Mary, was not an act of cowardice, but it was an act of protection when he saw that his child was under threat from the culture around him and the place they were living in and the ruler that was there. He withdrew to a place of safety to protect his family until they were ready to come back to their home. And, you know, sometimes we have to do that. We need to protect the vulnerable in our society. We need to protect our children's minds. We need to be careful about what we expose them to on the phones or on computers and so on, and to make them aware of the culture in which they live. And ultimately, I suppose, the idea of being pro-life hinges on this principle of that every human life matters, every human life has value, and that's what we need to transmit to our children, so that they in turn, when it comes to be their turn, that they know how to vote, that they are conscious of this as a value that they in turn want to pass on to their children. So it's, you know, it might seem like we've lost a lot of ground, but it's by taking little steps in our own immediate families and our own immediate community, that's how we stoop down and pick up those worn out tools and start to rebuild a culture of life again.
And at the same time, there will still be a lot of people, young and old, who want to get out there into wider society, into the public square.
Absolutely, it's so important. It's really important that we don't cede the public square to those who are anti-life, who want to make abortion freely available. We were told it would be safe, legal and rare, and look where we are now, 6,666 children aborted in this country last year, voted by 66% of the electorate, or those who voted, and there has been no comment on the significance of that number either. If we needed a reminder of the evil that is at the heart of taking the innocent lives of children, and particularly the hurt as well that it causes to women who very often feel they don't have another choice. And now the government is moving in to try to make sure that those women who are on the path towards abortion don't change their minds, that they don't meet anybody outside the hospital that might offer them an alternative.
And so tomorrow, Maria, we're having a youth conference called Unfiltered, and you have a big following among young people in Ireland who are of a pro-life view. What would you say to them finally to encourage us all?
I'd say keep up the good work, don't lose heart, and there are many challenges out there, but there are lots of potential hearts and minds to be won, so don't give up.
Maria Steen, thanks very much.
Thank you.
This next one is a song originally by U2. It's called One, and if you listen closely, you might hear a tune you'd be familiar with at the end, another tune.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Or do you feel the same?
pleased now to welcome Bernadette Smith from Precious Life to the Rally for Life and Sarah Hare from Staunton Healthcare. First to Bernie Smith. Bernadette, great to have you here. Such a champion
Thank
for
you.
life.
I'm delighted to be here.
A regular speaker at the Rally for Life, of course. People always come to hear what you have to share with us. And you've been in the pro-life battle now for
24 years next week.
24 years, and a huge amount of good done and a lot of babies saved. And I think a lot of people down here are looked in horror in Dublin Castle at that day when they saw Mary Lou and Michelle O'Neill, Sinn Féin, holding up a sign saying the North is next. And Jonathan Van Mar has this really good line in his book Patriots where he says, the eye of Sauron swung towards the North. And that, to me, that's precisely what it was, that they were seeking to break down the long expressed, I think, and the widely held pro-life attributes of people in the North. But the question for Precious Life and for all the pro-life groups is, where do you go from here?
Well, as you know, Niamh, abortion was forced on Northern Ireland. We didn't vote for abortion. Our politicians didn't have a say. So it was something that it wasn't consented from the people or the politicians. So we, the very day that abortion became legal, when it was passed because Stormont failed to get up and running, we went back onto the streets that very next day. Because that's what Precious Life is. We are an active organisation. We're a voice for the unborn child. When I formed Precious Life nearly 24 years ago, it was after seeing an image of a little baby boy who had been aborted. And, I have never forgotten that. And I want to do everything to be a voice for every individual unborn child under the threat of abortion. So what we're doing in Precious Life is we're actively back out on the streets. We've been campaigning since last October. We launched the Repeal Section 9 campaign. We're lobbying our politicians. And we're being a voice for children and trying to save one baby at a time. What we want to do is we want to save as many babies as we can because the law has changed. Sadly and tragically, that is something at this moment in time it will be very difficult to reverse with the current makeup of the Northern Ireland Assembly. But there is lots that we can do. We can educate the public on the horror of abortion. We know that many people in Northern Ireland are outraged at what has happened. So, after the lockdown, we're coming out the other end and we're able to continue with our active work on the streets.
Yeah, because you've always been a particularly active organisation, and I know that my own youngsters look at the Precious Life news feeds and Facebook, and they look at the Youth for Life Northern Ireland and all the activism that goes on all the time, the outreaches, the public outreaches on the streets, the huge amount of work, of course, that you've done in Stormont and elsewhere in holding medical conferences, all of those things that go to build the pro-life community and the pro-life message. And one thing I think that definitely you have in your corner, Bernie and Sarah, when we're looking at what's happening in the North, is that clearly the public are on your side. Because we saw in the submissions made to the Northern Ireland office that when they called for public submissions, was it 79% of people who were opposed to abortion?
Yeah, and that has been no different, in my opinion, over the years through various different campaigns and petitions that we presented at every opportunity, every campaign, every amendment, every motion that's been put forward at Stormont, Westminster. We've collected petitions that have outwon the pro-aborts. The pro-abortion organisations could never live up to the petitions that we put forward, all from the people of Northern Ireland. And I suppose I could say that we walk the talk. We just don't talk about abortion. We want to get out there on the streets. We want to raise the profile, and I think the profile for life. And I think because of that, things are still the same. Last year, last September, we had the March for Their Lives, and over 20,000 people came out to show their opposition. Brilliant. Following that, the consultation. People were so fired up, but we were just ignored. But that doesn't change the fact that we are still the voice for the unborn child. We still must speak out, we still must protest, and we still must do everything to ensure that the unborn child has a voice. I brought with me today a little pair of shoes, and the reason why I bought got these shoes, I was just, this is a little pair of shoes that a baby that was saved from abortion wore, and his mother gave those shoes back to me as to remember that his life was saved because of our work. That's what we want to do. We want every little baby to be spoken for, but to be saved and to be able to wear shoes. Yeah. You know, when you think of the Holocaust, I read a book about the Holocaust recently, and all the shoes that were found and the museums show them. We want little babies in Ireland to be able to be born to wear shoes, little babies that can walk the walk, and we're doing everything that we can to ensure that those babies will be able to wear shoes just the same as we as grown up. So
they're an incredibly powerful symbol, I think, of what the work is all about. It's about saving one life at a time and about changing one heart at a time and bringing people to the pro-life message. I think probably down here we look to the north with perhaps a tinge of envy, in that we think at least you have the DUP in your corner, and you know, at least you have one political party who seems mostly, you know, willing to stand up and support the right to life of unborn children.
Absolutely, and that has never changed. When I formed the all-party pro-life group back in 2006, it was actually Ian Paisley Senior that helped me form that group. He was my MP at the time, and that was a very successful lobby group at Stormont, and they have continued to be that voice. I know at this moment in time that there is not the make-up in the Northern Ireland Assembly to repeal Section 9, but we want to, in the future, change the makeup of the Northern Ireland Assembly. Yes. And we have things in plan for the future, so I'm excited.
So a little birdie has told me that part of that plan might be that you're intending to run for office.
Absolutely. I've thought long and hard. Caused many an argument in my home. No, is it not time you retired? And no, I just feel, you know, when I formed Precious Life, to be a voice for the unborn child on the streets, in the government, through the courts, and at this moment in time, we need to have a real strong pro-life voice in government, standing for the next election in 2022. To ensure that we can at least try to overturn and repeal Section 9. So that's our long-term plan.
Well, I would imagine everybody watching, Bernie, is fully behind you in that, sending you all their support and goodwill. We're always being told, aren't we, that we need more strong, feisty, independent-minded women in Parliament or in politics. So brilliant news. Great to hear that you've considered that and that you're willing to throw your hat into the ring. Yeah. I'm going to talk to Sarah now. Sarah Hare, great to have you with us from Stanton Healthcare. Can you tell us a little bit about Stanton Healthcare, how it came about, firstly in the north?
Okay, yeah, so in 2015, Bernadette Smith founded Stanton Belfast, Stanton Healthcare NI. And so Stanton Belfast is an affiliate of Stanton International, which is based over in Boise, Idaho. And we are inspired by the suffragette Elizabeth Stanton, who said that, let me get this right, this quote, for true equality between men and women, we must celebrate the true gift of motherhood and never treat our children as property, so to be thrown away. So in Stanton, in Belfast now, we've been up and running 5 years, and we're making great steps to just be ahead of the game. And obviously with the law change, we have been just making really, really excellent steps to make sure that every woman that comes into Stanton is given enough support that, please God, she can choose life for her wee baby.
So what an amazing quote. I hadn't heard that one before. What an amazing quote, and so true. And I've been in Stanton Healthcare, and it's a lovely, welcoming place. I can see how a woman who is, you know, frightened, who is vulnerable, who needs help, would go in there and have this feeling that there are people there who would support her. Can you tell us about some of the people, or obviously without not betraying any confidences or going into any details, tell us what's a kind of a typical day in Stanton and who do you come across?
Sure, yeah. So we invite women in for an initial consultation, and that's when they just come in, speak about their story, what's going on in their life, how can we help. We talk about the development of the baby, the reality of what actually is abortion, and we book that woman in for a scan, and that scan is the changing moment, because that woman sees that this is a window to the womb, and she sees that her wee baby is so alive. And contrary to the mantra that she might hear in the media, that her baby is that wee heart is beating, that them wee legs are growing, that wee brain is starting to function. And yeah, it's a truly amazing to see the miraculous how the scan miraculously saves lives.
Wow. And then, of course, I think for women, it's to know that the support is there. To know, first of all, this is my baby. I think most women do understand, like this is a baby, but what they can't see beyond is the fear that their life will be destroyed by a pregnancy. And they hear this so often, I think women hear, if you continue with this pregnancy, your future is taken away from you. And it's wonderful to have groups like Stanton who explains to women that actually, we can empower women and help them properly by helping them to continue with the pregnancy and ensure that their life can be fulfilled.
Yeah, absolutely, Niamh. And for example, like with the abortion movement, what they aim to do is to pin a mother against her child. But what we do in the pro-life movement is encourage women and say, you can do this. No matter how many people are saying you can't, how heavy the bills are, whatever the problem may be, that we will step in and we will 100% walk with you every step of the way. And even, for example, women that we've met who, they've got past that first hurdle. And they've chose life for their wee babies, but like the oil bills still come, the heavy grocery bills still come, and that's where we really step in and make sure that they're good, that everything's going to be okay for them.
There's a wonderful quote from Frederica Green, where she says that when faced with a crisis pregnancy, surely the answer is to terminate the crisis and not the child. And what you said there just meant so much to me, because of course after a baby is born, or when you continue with pregnancies, the reality is still there. If there are difficulties still there, who's going to help you deal with them? And I know that's why it's so amazing to have people like Stanton and to have people like Gianna Care, because you actually step in to help women, where I feel like abortion campaigners, all they offer them is abortion. It's like they pretend it's all about choice, but it's really telling women that they're on their own, and women deserve better than that. So Bernadette and Sarah, thank you so much for coming in to join us today in the Rally for Life. Brilliant to hear from you. Brilliant to hear the great news about MLAs, possibly Bernadette Smith. Fingers crossed. And to hear the marvellous work being done up north. And now on the Rally for Life, we're going to hear from another amazing young woman called Lila Rose.
So now, everybody, we are delighted to be joined by the wonderful Lila Rose. Lila, thanks very much for being with us this evening. Can you tell us, first of all, in the States, it seems to be the case that the pro-life movement has turned a corner and is in the ascendancy. Is that fair to say?
Yes, well, we have a tremendous amount of work left to do in the United States, but there's a lot of good happening because of the consistent hard work being done every day by thousands and thousands of people. So right now, our abortion rate is still sky high. I mean, we have 2,363 children killed daily in America, but that number has dropped by 50% since 1980. So we've seen a sharp decline in abortion over the last 4 decades. And that's something worth celebrating, because that's tens of thousands, ultimately millions of lives that have been saved. So we're always looking at it, the good and the bad together. We have a lot of work left to do. Abortion is still legal in all 50 states, but there are also many states. Just last year, there were a handful of states that passed some of the strongest pro-life laws yet, like the state of Louisiana, like the state of Georgia, passing laws to ban abortion once the heartbeat can be detected. So that's basically banning all abortions on all children, because a woman usually doesn't even know she's pregnant until the heartbeat happens at about 21 and a half days, about 3.5 weeks. So we're very hopeful, we're fighting hard, but as always, and I know this is your fight in Ireland, there is the good and the bad in this fight, because we are working daily with a life and death battle. And so we have to celebrate the victories, but we have to be as determined as ever to achieve complete abolition, which is what we're working for here in the States.
And what are some of the main ways in which you and a handful of others have brought this forward so much in quite a short space of time?
Sure. So the way we've been able to, I think there's several factors that have led to the decline in the abortion rate over the last few decades, and to the closure of dozens, actually hundreds of abortion clinics, and to a lot of the state laws which are protecting human life in the US. First of all, I think education has been tremendously powerful. I know that this is something that you prioritize in Ireland, and I highly encourage continue on and don't give up, because while the powerful forces are against us, I know institutional media is often against us, governments are often against us, the school system, academia is often against us, entertainment media, the culture is often against us. The power of education, using the internet, going to the streets, leafleting, holding events and conferences, showing people the humanity of the preborn child, actually showing people what the violence of abortion does to a baby, that is transformative. And we see hearts and minds changed all the time in the United States. We saw the number of people who identify as pro-life change by over 10 percentage points over the last decade, because more and more people have the facts about what abortion does and about the beauty and the humanity of that preborn child. A couple other things I want to mention too are the power of our pregnancy resource center movement. In the United States, there's thousands of pregnancy resource centers that are doing daily work to serve women in need and parents in need, to help them with their young children, with their unborn children. This is really powerful, not just to provide physical resources, material resources, but to be emotional support, and also to help galvanize activists in the local community who want to be involved in the pro-life cause. So keep up that good work. If you're working in the care side of the movement, it's so essential. And even though day in, day out, it seems sometimes like a slog and we're not winning the big war, you are winning daily battles when you are there to support mothers and women in need. One last thing that's been really, really important and powerful besides education and care is, of course, fighting the political battle. It's messy, it's frustrating, there are setbacks, we've seen them in the United States, but we have to keep fighting it, because getting people not just educated, but prepared to take action politically and as activists in their community matters tremendously. And while there will be losses of battles at times, we are focused on winning a war. Every great war has battles where there are losses, but we have to persevere and continue to be prepared for the next battle so that we can achieve that ultimate abolition of abortion and cultural change that I know we are working towards in the United States, and I know that you want in Ireland.
So in Ireland, you obviously know we had a big setback in 2018, and I think it's fair to say a lot of people are quite disheartened, especially now that we see the figures coming in on how many children have been killed in Ireland since. So what would you say to a lot of people here who feel quite dispirited but still know the truth and still want to do something?
Yeah, it was a huge setback, and I grieved with you from over here. I mean, I was out in Ireland a couple times before you had that terrible setback, trying to do events with you guys, and my heart grieves with you and the over 6,000 children, Irish children killed since the referendum. So I feel what you're feeling. You know, we have our death toll here in America. It's incredible, over 2,000 children killed every day. But what I would say to you is, this battle is not one we can give up. This battle is one we must give our whole hearts to continue to fight. And the battle is greater than even educating about abortion, educating about the dignity of the baby and caring for women. The battle is a larger cultural battle. And I think in Ireland, you guys were working hard. You were doing powerful educational work that I looked to from the United States, Live Action, other pro-life groups. It was a model for us. But I think what we're seeing is the larger cultural decay needs to be addressed. And that has to do with talking about sex. It has to do with talking about marriage. It has to do with reasserting what it really means to be human. Because in a society where we no longer see sex as sacred, where we no longer value marriage, where we no longer see children as a good, but we instead have this anti-child mentality and a pro-contraceptive mentality where we don't want sex to create life, we don't want it to be a part of marriage, then abortion is a natural consequence. And so we've seen this in the United States since our sexual revolution in the 1960s. And I know that that's a problem in Ireland too. So the loss in Ireland wasn't the fault of the incredible educational work you were doing to expose the truth about abortion. It was the consequence of a broken culture. So I would encourage you, continue to fight as hard as ever to educate about abortion, the dignity of the baby, and supply support for women, but also continue to create that revival that's needed in the United States and in Ireland, a cultural revival for the family, for motherhood, for fatherhood, for seeing every person as created in the image and likeness of God. Truly, it has to do with a revival of belief and a revival of behavior as much as it has to do with changing laws to protect human life.
And it's a really good message, one that ultimately is for the benefit and happiness of other people when we start to see those personal and societal changes.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's a great point, because we have such a beautiful message. I mean, I got married a year and a half ago. I have a 6-month-old son. Marriage, children are tremendous gifts. Faith is a tremendous gift. Life is meant to be lived to its fullest. And the fully lived life is not lived without commitment, without fidelity, without responsibility. These things are actually, they help ennoble us. They make us more noble. And if we reject these things, if we reject these gifts, we actually become, I think, we don't become the people we're called to be. So if our message, the larger pro-life message, while still being boldly and uncompromising in its anti-abortion stance, if our message is also explaining what the goodness of marriage and modeling it, if our message is celebrating the goodness of children, if it's celebrating the goodness of sex and what sex is actually designed to be, it's designed to create new human life and bond people together. And that's good. That's not a bad thing. And that if we are uncompromising in educating about that and witnessing to that, I think that's the larger cultural change that's needed, as well as continuing our anti-abortion activism.
So it's certainly a message that would challenge both the States and Ireland, I think it's fair to say. Well, Lila, thanks so much for giving us your time and your thoughts and so much energy here at the Rally for Life. It's much appreciated, and we wish you the very best in your work too.
Keep up the great work. Don't give up. We have an incredible cause in front of us, and there will be a victory, but we cannot give up. We have to persevere.
Thanks, Lila.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share and tweet the Rally for Life on all your social media platforms. #UnitedForLife, #Rally4Life. And please donate now to support the rally. Stay tuned for more.
So everyone, that's a wrap. Thank you so much for being part of Ireland's first and probably only ever online Rally for Life. We're delighted that you could be here with us. Thanks to all the speakers, all the people who shared everything, all the people who watched, and please, if you can, donate at rallyforlife.net.
Everybody, you've been amazing. Thank you for being part of it, for liking, for sharing, for commenting. Brilliant Rally for Life 2020. We won't forget this one in a hurry. Remember, Unfiltered Youth Conference tomorrow, 4 o'clock. Same time, same place, on Ireland Rally for Life website or the Facebook page. Be part of that as well. Thank you so much. It's a wrap. God bless. See you next year in Dublin.